Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, your master of fun and wonder, your viceroy of verisimilitude, and, as John Campea once said about me, your existential Mr. Rogers. I still don't quite know what that means, but I'll take it. Robert Meyer Burnett, and I am here with another John Campea Show companion video. And you know, I do love it when John takes my chains off and lets me answer questions from all of you lovely folks around this great planet of ours. Truly an audience of international proportions. And most of this, I'm actually kind of sad. I think this is my 7th, maybe, WandaVision, maybe it's 8th WandaVision video. It's been a lot of fun hearing from all of you, talking to all of you. And let's just jump right into it and see where we're at. The Wakandan Forever sent in a super chat and says, what does he say? WandaVision has been eye-opening for me. I will pay attention to side characters more and keep my eyes open for Easter eggs watching MCU films now. Well, Wakandan Forever, I think it's a good bet because there's a lot of interesting Easter eggs, a lot of things set up for the MCU here. I thought that was a lot of fun. And, you know, if you're a longtime comics reader, this had a lot of Marvel comic lore into it. And like when I was growing up, like when I was in junior high school, Monica Rambeau was Captain Marvel, you know, and she was in the Avengers. So it's great to see Monica take her rightful place in the MCU. I really like seeing that. I can't wait to see what she does in Captain Marvel 2, but it should be pretty interesting. Either way, Anthony MR sends in a super chat and says, as a comic book geek, I understand the frustration fans are feeling from the lack of theories coming true. Well, Anthony, as a longtime comic book fan myself, I feel you, sir. I know we come up with all this stuff and then we expect like, well, this better happen. But any longtime comic fan can tell you, because what do? We speculate. And how, imagine that, we had to wait like a month between issues rather than just a week between episodes. So, yeah. I kind of, you know, on this particular show, I think maybe ultimately that at first John and I have been talking about how, yes, let's binge this thing. But maybe the binging model might have been better for this, or we didn't want to binge it. We wanted to see it every week. And I kind of think that maybe binging might have been better because in the case of the show, maybe all these expectations and speculation actually hurt it. I'm really curious. I'm going to go back and watch it all from the beginning and see how it plays out and if it plays out any differently now that I know what I know. So, yeah. Tommy Platt says, I didn't get all emotional like a lot of people did after the last episode, but when Vision shed a tear, #crytime. Look, I think no doubt the emotional core of this film was Wanda and Vision's relationship, and it was really well done. And Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen, they just knocked it out of the park. They were all so good. Anthony Ash Mask sends in a super chat and says, hey, John, unlike the other questions that were built up by us fans, Pietro was entirely Marvel's doing, totally. Out of everyone they could have chosen for the stunt casting, they went with Evan Peters, all to pay off a boner joke. Anthony, that's the thing that bothered me, to be honest, the most. Because by casting Evan Peters, they made the audience presume something. And you brought in knowing there was already Into the Spider-Verse, knowing we're getting in the mouth of madness, Doctor Strange in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and we're getting Spider-Man 3 with multiverse characters. To bring in Evan Peters, it was, I don't know if it was trolling or it just created an unrealistic expectation in the audience for me too. I mean, I thought, okay, how are they going to explain this? And are we going to get something that works? How is that going to be explained? It turns out it was just a goofy joke. And I'm like, well, that's kind of lame. I didn't like it. Ruski9110 says, so now Wanda is studying the Darkhold. Which is the book of the Elder God who possesses her in the comics? Over or under she's a villain in Doctor Strange 2? I think she is going to be a villain in Doctor Strange 2. Or she's going to be competing maybe with Doctor Strange for something else, to get something else. I think you might be right about that. Extreme Nation sends in a super chat and says, Wanda reading Darkhold and Agatha as the nosy neighbor. Yeah, I mean, I liked all that stuff. It's going to be really interesting to see how that all plays out because there's a lot of comic lore surround, and is Chthon going to be in it? And I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Bryson sends in a super chat and says, I love the little tease how Wanda's journey leads into Doctor Strange 2. Also, maybe whatever impacts Spider-Man No Way Home happens in Doctor Strange 2 is that was originally going to be released first. I think so. I think that Doctor Strange 2 might wind up being a prequel to Spider-Man No Way Home. It's going to be interesting to see how that's going to work, but I think you're right. Nicole D sends in a super chat and says, Hi, John. Do you feel the engineer may have been a seed for another movie? Also, do you think the real Ralph was the FBI's missing person? Maybe, but it seemed like to me, why would that character, is he a little young to be in witness protection? I don't know. I thought it was weird. I don't know. And the engineer, it's like, why would you bring these questions up, which are so obviously questions, and not pay them off? I thought it was interesting, but it bothered me. As an astute viewer, as we all are, we're being told these things. We're being like, well, who is this? And what does this mean? And sometimes it bothered me. Anthony Ashmask sends in another super chat and says, as if Vision's origins were not already convoluted enough. First, he was born as part Ultron, Jarvis, and the Mind Stone, and Thor's lightning. Then, in the Hex, as part of Wanda's Mind Stone. Then, through Wanda's powers, and because Hex Vision unlocked his memories. Yeah, it's crazy. He definitely has a crazy history, and it's wacky. Mattuine sends in a super chat, 1 and 2. In the final credits scene, was Wanda astral projecting herself while studying the Darkhold? If so, I can see her being more powerful and more helpful by the time she's in the next Doctor Strange movie, unless she becomes a villain in that case. As Agatha said, she'll be more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme. Oh my. Well, Mattuine, I think, yes. I think she's being set up to be villainous. I think that's where they're going with this. And I wouldn't be surprised to see just how villainous she could get. Probably a lot. Brandon, is it Noppy? Sends in a super chat and says, where did the kids go? Is Wanda holding them? Is this the connection with Spider-Man 3? So many questions. Yes, Brandon, there are. I think the kids are there. We hear them. Maybe they're in the astral plane with her. It's a little crazy. I'm not quite sure how it all works, but it's definitely wacky. Extreme Nation sent in a super chat and says, I have no words for this show. I loved the wild ride. Look, I think ultimately we did. It's funny. I'm not going to allow my enjoyment of the journey that I took on this show to be tainted by the fact that all these expectations that were instilled in me, didn't pan out. I still had fun. I still enjoyed it. Ashley A sends in a super chat and says, do you think Marvel were surprised by the level of fan speculation? And do you think future shows will adapt to add cast announcement and more cameos? Well, Ashley A, I think they might have been surprised by just about how much fan speculation there was, but I can't believe they weren't expecting it. They know, but there was a lot. It became kind of a cause celeb, and it wasn't just in fan circles. It was all over the place. The media in general, the entertainment media, were kind of all over this show. It was wacky, but cool. I don't think we're going to get necessarily more cameos. I think we need to start learning to enjoy these things as they come. Be like, okay, well, I get that, so we'll take it as it came, rather than speculate away as to. Instead of what we're not getting, we should concentrate on what in fact we are getting. Jose Sosa says, same post-credit sequence as Incredible Hulk. Laugh out loud. In a way, you're not wrong about that. I didn't think about that, but you are not wrong. Absolutely not. Balam Garden Seed 87 sends in a super chat and says, hey John, a fitting finale that had me feel just a fitting finale that had me feel just about every emotion I could. Me too. I wonder what will happen going forward with the White Vision. Thoughts? I like the fact that we're moving forward with the White Vision. It's a different kind of a vision. I'm looking forward to what Bettany will do with the Vision. I'm glad Vision's still around. I've really loved what Bettany has done with Vision all the way back to Age of Ultron. And I just like the character design. I like him as Vision. I hope he keeps doing it. I don't know where it's going to go, though, to be honest. Ashley A comes back and sends in another super chat and says, what are the odds of season 2 or even a solo movie? Well, I don't think we're going to get a season 2. I think this was it. Maybe we will, but it spins off. I think, look, Elizabeth Olsen has clearly proven herself as an actress. I think she really likes doing this role. and I think she's marvelous in it, and I think they're going to give her a lot more to do moving forward in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. What I really like is what they're doing with these characters, WandaVision, Falcon, and Winter Soldier. They're taking characters that are secondary characters and bringing them to the fore, and I think it's really great that they're doing that. Hey, John, Pietro being a nobody annoyed me. Oh, wait, this comes from Amit Suresh, sends in a super chat and says, hey, John, Pietro being a nobody annoyed me as I was hoping for more. Also, can Wanda give powers to civilians in the Hex since Pietro had his speed? Well, I think Pietro, I don't know. I'm still a little, what happened with Pietro? And did she, or was that Agatha? The whole thing was strange, but I don't think she can just give powers to people. I think if they're manifestations of what she wanted them to be, she can make them anything she wants. But if she's changing or she's bestowing powers on people, I think it's a little different. Balam Garden Seed 87 sends in another super chat. The way Wanda said goodbye to her children by tucking them in was quite moving. But then that bloody end credits scene has me hoping to see them again. I think we're going to see them again. Look, we've seen on social media, they've been out in London where they're filming the Multiverse of Madness. So I think we're going to see more of them. Captain Melvin Seahorse sends in a super chat and says, the finale felt a little too safe for me. I agree. I would have liked a few more surprises. I agree. But overall, the show was an awesome ride. Yeah, I think Captain Melvin, that's what we have to remember. I mean, everyone's like waiting for these earth-shattering cameos, but what about the actual show we just watched? So I think we have to remember that. And for the most part, I thought it was a pretty damn good show. I'm certainly there for it. Very happy with what we did get. Pretty amazing. And it was a great ride. Mike Thompson sends in a super chat and says, the last scene between Wanda and Vision was very well done, but it's hard to get too emotional because we know the real Vision is out there somewhere. Yeah, but I do think, I think the Vision now that we have is still the real Vision, however we got him. But yeah, I still thought it was emotional, though. I kind of got choked up. KC McNatt sends in a super chat and says, Wanda opening and reading the Darkhold is going to cause a lot of problems. Nothing good comes from reading an evil book. Just ask Bruce Campbell, the Necronomicon. Well, as somebody who actually worked on Army of Darkness, it's true. I have a small, tiny little, my name's in the end credits of Army of Darkness. But absolutely, don't read those damn mystical books, man. The Book of the Dead, the Darkhold, stay away. Reading is not fundamental when you're dealing with the powers of the universe. B. Cunning says, hey, John, and John and A. Oh, that's John and Ann. Now I know. Hey, John and A, your understanding of TV movies are why we come to view. My question is this. Do you believe the possibility of Ralph Bohner being an alias is possible? Does Agatha's look of grave concern and Billy pleading for Wanda to give life to a Mephisto-esque character? Lastly, Skrulls! Yep, I mean, they're clearly setting up Secret Invasion, which is great. I like that. I thought that was cool. I'm excited, but I don't know. I don't think Ralph Bohner's an alias. I think that we saw the photographs. Turns out it's just some guy. Gary Ritchie sends in a super chat and says, when I saw Wanda reading the Darkhold, it reminded me of when Ezra first opened the Sith holocron. It looks like she will be corrupted by dark magic. I think that's exactly where they're going. I honestly do. Lucas J sends in a super chat and says, even though a lot of rumors and speculation turned out not to be true, I found this a very satisfying ending to an unexpectedly great TV series. I agree, Lucas. I thought it was a satisfying ending. I really did like the show all the way through. And I think just because we didn't get all of these shocking revelations doesn't mean it's a bad show. Timothy Platt says, the biggest problem I have with this episode is the same problem I had with a lot of the other ones. Too short. I felt like Darcy, Monica, Billy, and Tommy all could have had more to do. I agree. That said, the episode was awesome. Cool fights, good dialogue, and even better acting. Wrapped up this show nicely while setting up the future. You know what, Timothy? And isn't that all we can expect? I mean, I think it did a great job doing that. I honestly do. And if it was good, then, I'm happy for it. I'm happy for all of us that we did get that kind of a show. Brandon Barrett has 1 out of 2. I remember when John said the Scarlet Witch costume would look dumb in live action. John, you got to give those costume designers faith. Listen, When it comes to adapting these costumes, no matter how silly they are in the comic, I believe there's always a way to adapt a character's costume without it looking silly in live action. I could not agree with you more. I think one of the strengths of the MCU has always been the beautiful realization of the costumes. They've been great. What they've done with those costumes has been amazing. So I am with you 100%, Brandon, and they do a fantastic job. And that final Scarlet Witch, you know what I say, bring on the hot toys, son. Bring on the hot toy. Alex Von Gollum sends in a super chat and says, "Hi, Gio and Ann. I love the ending. It was painful, but it became what it needed to be. It's one of the most beautiful and deep series I've ever seen. It left us with a phrase to treasure and use forever." That would, of course, be, what is grief but love persevering? Ugh. That's one of the great lines I've ever heard, by the way. And you're correct with that, Alex. You are correct. "I'm grateful for this ride. Thanks, everyone, for going through the journey together." You know what, dude? That's exactly right. That is exactly right. That's a perfect expression of what all of this has been. I mean, certainly we call it fan engagement, but John has talked about the show for how long? I've done how many of these companion videos? We haven't had this ever happen. So many people are so into it. Alex, you nailed that one on the head. I totally agree with you. Oh, and Alex, you continue on. You say, "I think Doctor Strange will soon find her as he is in the lookout for powerful beings and threats to the universe. Wanda hasn't gone mad yet. She's still vulnerable, so her destiny is open." Good point. Good point with that, and we're going to see more of her. I can't wait to see what's going on, because remember, both Doctor Strange and Wanda were blipped too. I wonder what happens to people when they were blipped. Like, where did they go? Did they go somewhere? I always wondered about that. Did they go to like some weird purgatory? But I think that Doctor Strange and Wanda, clearly they have a big future together, and Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So we shall see. Kay sent in a super chat in Wanda's voice. "No, I'm sorry, but the last episode felt rushed. Well, let's see what else Marvel pulls out of its hat." Okie dokie then. Yeah, I could see that too, because look, they brought up a lot. We have many questions. So there was a lot that they had to answer for and answer to. And it was their own doing. They brought it up like that. So yeah, I agree with you. Epic Dub Time sends in a super chat and says, "Definitely got some Incredibles vibe when the family was standing together ready to fight. Also wondering what'll happen with White Vision." It did. You know what? When the four of them were there all assembled, I was totally thinking the Incredibles. I'm like, yes. And it was great. They released that still. I could totally see that. Absolutely. And I'll tell you what I want to have happen with White Vision. Hot Toys. Hello. Hot Toys, White Vision, and Wanda in her Scarlet Witch outfit. What do I have to do? Who do I have to bribe? Somebody? Anybody? Can I? Huh? So Epic Dub Time, yeah. Frostbite. Frostbite says, "Remember when everyone was saying how Marvel finally dropped the ball and made a horrible show when the first episode's released? Bet they feel stupid." Man, I could not have believed where the show was going to take us. What a wacky show. I really, I couldn't believe it. I think you're absolutely right about that. Kay sends in a super chat and says, "Vision is back and Hayward is an ass." Yes, indeed. I agree. Frankie Gouge sends in a super chat and says, "What is disappointment but unreasonable expectations persevering?" I love that too, Frankie. That is classic. What is disappointment but unreasonable expectations persevering? Hey, if nothing else, the fact that you were able to riff on one of the most famous line from the show, it's a pretty good thing. Murray Reich sends in a super chat and says, "So, we've basically had every question answered except for where's Agent Franklin and who are the two people in the commercials and the surprise cameo?" Who are the people in those commercials, man? I don't know who they are. I wanted to know. Do they matter? Maybe they don't matter. Should I care? I don't know. But you're right. Those are questions. But remember, the surprise cameo is something we talked about. I think they were really referring to the other Vision. So, Epic Dub Time says, "Thanks for choosing me to be your mom. Cry time." Yep. Definitely cry time. I love that. How great was that? It was good. I mean, gut punch, right? Skittle Skitty says, WandaVision told a very human story of a young woman finally accepting herself and overcoming grief. It's been such a fun ride, and thanks for the show. You know what? Well put. I think that at the end of the day, that's what we need to remember. Remember what it was that we're doing here, where this show is taking us. And I agree 100%. Murray Reich sends in a super chat and says, I guess the scroll was referring to Nick Fury to Monica, who's waiting to meet her. Also, we've only got one moment of Darcy, which I would have wanted a little more. You know what? I thought Darcy got shortchanged in the end. But, she was just a guest star, but I wanted to see more of her. I really did. But you know what? I guess leaving people wanting more is better. Dragon10 sends in a super chat and says, Wanda said, no more Mephisto theories. Yep, that was us. That was all on us, man. All on us, which was pretty hilarious. Roberto Rodriguez sends in a super chat and says, hey, John, first time comment. Been watching you since the Collider days. Vision versus White Vision had the most polite fight ending ever, and it was awesome. I agree. You know what? That was an awesome fight, though. I mean, it was epic, and then I love the way it ended kind of philosophically. I think you're absolutely right. I love that you pointed that out. Frankie Gouge says, seems to me everything people are upset about is secondary to the main story. I thought that was concluded adequately. Yeah, I think so too. I mean, the idea that I think the story was concluded adequately and that people wanted something they didn't get was kind of strange. John Redcorden sends in a super chat and says, I don't know why people ever thought Peters was Fox's Quicksilver. Feige doesn't take sloppy seconds, especially from a dying franchise like Fox's X-Men. Hashtag 5-year plan. Yeah, but look, I think people thought about it because who else could he be? They did put him, you picked Evan Peters to play Quicksilver. You can't do that and not think about, as viewers, we could not think about Quicksilver. I mean, everyone was thinking about him, so I didn't think we had really a choice, but I get what you're saying. But they had to know that they're creating a question in the audience. Aaron W. sends in a super chat and says, Hot Toys better give us the full costume Scarlet Witch. Amen. Yeah, I would love a full costume Scarlet Witch. I've never been so keen on all their Scarlet Witches, but that one, man, I want that figure. And White Vision. Neither have been announced, which is kind of a bummer. I love my Hot Toys Vision figure. Frankie Gouge sent in another super chat. Also, plenty of stuff to keep theorizing on. Color me stubborn as hell, but Ralph Boner is exactly a name Quicksilver would pick for witness protection. You could be right about that. I mean, you're right about he would exactly pick that name, but maybe he was the one who witness protection. Who knows, though? I don't know. But I think you're absolutely right about that. The CTB channel sends in a super chat and says, Hi, John. I think the Evan Peters casting and all of the other trolling and red herrings were hilarious. We got Ralphed, and I'm all for it. You know what? I appreciate you looking at it that way, so you're not disappointed. But there you go. That's a very good point that you are, in fact, making. And I don't think you're wrong. Vault of the Future sends in a super chat and says, I just watched the finale, and although I would have preferred Wanda to become a straight-up villain, there was so much character development that led to her finally accepting the inevitable. It was truly a bittersweet ending, but I guess Marvel just pulled another fake death. White Vision is the real Vision now. I kind of wish both Visions didn't make it out of this, but I guess we'll see what Feige has in store in the next. Well, I think White Vision, look, right out of the comics, Kevin Feige's always going back to the comics and taking cues from them, and I think that he's correct, and I agree. I liked it. Isaiah Jones sends in a super chat and says, this is one of two. Happy finale day, John. Overall, I'm very satisfied with this one. 3 questions. Where was the cameo? And what the fuck happened to the revived White Vision? I don't know what happened to White Vision. He's kind of disappeared. And the cameo, they kept saying, I think the cameo everybody was referring to was Paul Bettany fighting Paul Bettany. And if you go back and remember, a lot of these things, I mean, the modern talk show stuff, but if it was in the day or a while ago, WandaVision was supposed to be on at a different time, but the pandemic mixed everything up. So I don't know. I think you're absolutely right, though. It's it's all, I don't know. Yeah, I moving forward, we just have to watch these shows for what they are and not what we think they're supposed to be. So when I'm watching Falcon and Winter Soldier, I'm just going to watch it straightforward and enjoy it from that sense and see where it takes me. But I do want to go watch WandaVision again and see what I can pick up on. Ted Wu sends in a super chat and says, I'm so happy they didn't go with that BS. It was all just a dream nonsense. Me too. That would have really bothered me. Oh, Isaiah Jones, 1 of 2. Pardon me. Let me read that again, Isaiah Jones. Happy finale day, John. Overall, I'm very satisfied with this one. 3 questions. Where was the cameo? And what the fuck happened to revive White Vision? Is it wrong that I'm excited Wanda is now officially a multiversal threat? No, you're not wrong. Overall, this was a solid landing in my book. Bravo. Isaiah, you're right, man. And I got to tell you, I think the way you put it, a solid landing in my book. Bravo. I think that's exactly what it was. And I think you're absolutely right in taking it in the spirit that it's intended. A solid landing. Jose, is it Joser? Maez? Joser Mays? I hope I don't get that too wrong. The Vision is going to show up in future MCU films. I think so. Absolutely. You have to. The Vision's great. Everyone loves Paul Bettany. Paul Bettany's got to come back. And I think White Vision is a badass. That's why I want a hot toy of White Vision. KB sends in a super chat and says, I believe the end proves to us the breaking of the multiverse occurred before WandaVision. Whether it will be from what happens in Loki or by the destruction of the Infinity Stones, Evan Peters is Wu's missing person. Is he? I don't know. Let's see what he's going to say. Laughs at the name Boner like it's made up, but he had his powers. J. Jonah Jameson is shown in Far From Home. Toby and Andrew and villains to follow. Wanda didn't break reality. It must have happened before WandaVision. I think you're right about that. And I was pointing that out as well. I think that reality was broken before this. I don't think reality was broken because of the Hex. I think something happened, whether it's the destruction of the Infinity Stones or something. But I agree with you. I think the first time, I think, we saw J. Jonah Jameson, who's probably from another universe or something like that. So I agree. Ted Wu sends in a super chat and says, some questions answered, some not, and some new ones. I think that's what makes it fun. A great attitude, sir. Mr. Wu, I think you are correct. And I like where you're coming from with that. Buddy Christ, the original Jedi, sends in a super chat and says, wow, holy Sorcerer Supreme, a lot to unpack. I request elaboration. Is a line I think epitomizes how Marvel Studios continues to leave us wanting more. 13 years, still going. Truly unprecedented. Well, Buddy Christ, you and I park our shuttlecrafts in the same shuttle bay. I agree with you completely. That's why Marvel is so successful doing what it keeps doing. And we keep coming back for more, which is great. And I'm here for it. Howard D. sends in a super chat and says, my issues with Monica. From learning her cells were altered to outright gaining powers, she never seemed to acknowledge that anything happened to her. I think she did, but she was rolling with it. And maybe certain things that happened to her mother, so she was ready for it or not. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you're right, but maybe they could have gone more into that. That might not have been such a bad thing. But you never know. But I think that's a good point. I mean, they could have done more with that. Howard D. sends in a super chat and says, issues with Monica. From learning her cells were altered to outright gaining powers, she never seemed to acknowledge that anything had happened to her. I don't disagree with that. I feel like when I was watching Lost and we got into it, no one ever said to anyone else, they never sat down and were like, can you believe we've traveled through time to the 70s? That a nuclear bomb went off? I mean, it's almost like, look, I look at it this way. What happened in WandaVision happened over the course of literally a couple of days. So it seemed, because it was strung out for weeks in our time, I think people were just coming to grips with everything that was going on. No one really had a moment to sit down and reflect. That's what I chalk it up to. I mean, the situation was so bizarre that no one sat down and said, "Well, what about me? What am I going through?" That's kind of the way I looked at it. Jack Saphir sends in a super chat and says, I think the Ralph gang is a rare misstep for the MCU. Going out of your way to cast Evan Peters for Fake Out is just a tad cruel. I don't disagree. I think there should have been a reason why they cast him. It was kind of weird. If you're going to pull that, if you're going to pull that card, you got to use that card. And I think that was a big deal. Sebastian Fritsch sent in a super chat and said, new favorite costume for sure. They absolutely nailed it. You're talking about the final Wanda costume. I thought it was great. I thought it looked terrific. And again, it made that headpiece look good. I mean, she's a beautiful woman. Go Elizabeth Olsen. Howard D sends in a super chat and says, Hayward chose not to arrest Wanda. Typical cop. Can't argue with that. I mean, Hayward was pretty mean to Monica, and I thought they were friends. So that's pretty funny. Josh Bing sends in a super chat and says, the finale was excellent and stayed true to the story and narrative, though I will say there was an opportunity to veer it into a more tragic ending. I think so, too. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was going to be much more tragic and sad than it was. So I'm kind of happy it maybe necessarily wasn't. Yeah. BW Rojas says, or Rojas, it's Rosas. BW Rosas said that post-credit scene, holy, seems the Darkhold book confirmed for Doctor Strange 2 and a Marvel big bad we didn't see coming in Chthon for Phase 4. Agree. People talked about Chthon. I think Chthon could very well be that big bad. Very interesting to see if they're bringing him in, like Dormammu for Doctor Strange 1, a really interesting choice of villain. How they're going to explain them, I don't know. We shall see. Dark Knight Jedi sends in a super chat and says, sadly, the only choice for Wanda is exile. She causes more collateral damage than Hulk. Also, Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Luke wish theirs looked that beautiful. You mean they're ghosts in the ghostly realm? Or their costumes. I don't know what you mean there, but yeah, I think you're right. She's dangerous to be around. She is mad, bad, and dangerous to know. Alex Sarah sends in a super chat and says, good evening, John. In regards to Pietro, it always cracks me up when people write that. I would get excited from speculation, but then go, whoa, scale it back. Nothing is confirmed until it's confirmed. That said, Pietro's return for real, or is it just a pipe dream? I think, Alex, they're going to reboot the X-Men from scratch. There's the report that they're doing a movie something called The Mutants. We'll see where it goes. I have no idea where it's going to go. It just seems like, honestly, I don't know. I don't know the answer. But yeah, I think you're right. I mean, nothing was confirmed. It just seems odd to me that they made that choice, and we didn't know. Like, we don't know where he came from, why him. It threw everybody a curve that I think was you're playing with an audience, and I thought it was pretty unfair, to be honest. I thought it was pretty unfair. Little Ray sends in a super chat and says, nobody questions why there's a white Vision. That really bothered me. He just shows up and they're like, okay, I figure Wanda would be heartbroken to see they made Vision, the love of her life, into a soulless weapon. I really thought that would trigger the hell out of Wanda. Probably, but they did just bring him back. I mean, she knows he died, obviously. I just don't think people had much time to process what was going on. This show, even though it was parceled out in weekly chunks for 9 weeks to us, within the show itself, it wasn't that long, It was only a couple of days. So I don't think anyone really had time to process what was going on, especially with all the shenanigans happening. Paths Unwritten sends in a super chat and says, why was Hayward arrested? His response to Wanda's threat was reasonable. Reactivating Vision was an acknowledged goal of S.W.O.R.D., not a secret. I agree. I mean, if you go back and you watch episode 4, Haywood doesn't seem so bad. He just kind of became a dick on sight, and I thought he was just kind of doing his job, and it was kind of like he was mean. So he was in war mode, and I agree. I don't know why they arrested him for doing what. I'm a little unclear. I need to go back and watch that. Johan Aglen sends in a super chat and says, although I enjoyed the theories, I just tried to enjoy the show in itself. The ending was near perfect in my eyes. Well, Johan, I think that's true. A lot of people felt that way, and even I thought, you know what? For what this show is supposed to be, it's kind of a perfect ending. Johanna Glenn goes on to say, thank you, Campea, for all our pre- and post-game shows. Looking forward to Loki now. Yeah, can you imagine what that's going to be like? Crazy. Which God only knows what Loki's going to bring us. I mean, I think there's going to be epic craziness in there. Kay Nikio sends in a super chat and says, astral form while awake. Wow, she's powerful. She is powerful. And it was scary how powerful she is. And I'm sure we're going to see more of that. Magic K sends in a super chat and says, so the cameo is John Campea eating eggs with ketchup? Oh, I hope not. I never want to see that, to be honest. Even though that you now brought this image up in my mind, I don't want to see it. I want to run away from my brain right now. Mike Rodriguez sends in a super chat and says, part 1 of 2. Biggest problem with WandaVision, Wanda learns nothing. She loses her kids, but at the end hears their voices and obviously is going to try and get them back. She loses her boyfriend, but then gets a shiny new white one who she'll definitely get with later in the MCU. She also tortures kids. How did she not learn from her mistakes? Well, we don't see that she did. Maybe she did. Maybe she realizes there's a lot of wisdom she's going for. But yes, for the audience, there's no cathartic, oh my gosh, Wanda has certainly learned from this ordeal that she put herself and everyone else through. Yeah, there's no hell to pay now, but there probably will be later. But it's a good point. A really good point. Mike Rodriguez sends in another super chat and says, she knows just how to make a hex and trap Agatha and use her powers against her. What? Yeah, I don't... Again, a lot of this, once the stuff started going down, I don't think there was a lot of logic employed that allow us, we as astute viewers, to really know or understand what was going on. And I think that was a shortcoming for the show. That's why I thought episode 9, maybe it was because it was so rushed, but they didn't deal with all those ramifications, and I thought that was definitely problematic. So, Magic K says, after 2 post-credit scenes, we have Monica finally going to space for Captain Marvel 2, and Wanda using a spell book to bring her kids back for Doctor Strange 2. Well, that is true. It's all set up. Where it's all going to go, I don't know, but I'm here for it. Magic K says 2022 will be bonkers, or would be bonkers. Yes, it will. Although 2021 we got 4. You've got Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, and Spider-Man 3 coming out, which I think is just, it's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, it's crazy. We live in crazy times. New Era Vision sends in a super chat and says, I love the slow burn, the character-driven, methodic construction of the MCU. Please, Feige, never surrender to the whining fanboys. And thank you, John. Well, I think you mean thank you because he's been doing so many of these shows. It's been really fun. I mean, I've been getting the blowback here, more questions from the fans. It's been a lot of fun. I can't believe how many questions have been sent in. It's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. The last shady walking Marvel sent in a super chat. Man, that Scarlet Witch outfit looks amazing. I thought so too. It's pretty great. I mean, it's amazing. I'm happy with the finale, but this was the first episode I felt was way too short. No time to slow down. You know what? I can't disagree with you there because I felt it was just too much story packed into one, and they didn't answer all the questions. I thought they'd do like a special 2-hour episode of WandaVision and tell us, really get into everything that was going on, because I did feel that we were somewhat shortchanged. I really did. Murray Reich sends in a super chat and says, it's interesting that the post-credit scene didn't end with a typical MCU message that Scarlet Witch will return in Doctor Strange 2. I, you know what? Maybe, but I think they didn't want to maybe tip their hand yet. I don't know, because we've got so many things in between all of that. We've got 4 Marvel movies, and people are going to be like, well, wait, when's Doctor Strange 2? And so there's 4 movies in between Doctor Strange 2, so I think probably they didn't want to bring that up. Sword of the Morning sends in a super chat and says, Wanda is stronger than the Sorcerer Supreme? I think she's powerful in a different way. Chaos magic is different than what he does. So maybe differently? She's differently powerful? I think. Murray Reich sent in a super chat and says, it's interesting that the post-credit scene didn't end with a typical MCU message that Scarlet Witch will return. Oh, I already read that. And my answer is the same. Murray, I think that it's because there's 4 Marvel movies between the end of WandaVision and Doctor Strange that people will be waiting for over a year. Little Ray sends in a super chat and says, Pietro was just used as a D joke in the finale. Yes, and I was not digging that. Not digging it. Murray Reich sent in a super chat and says, oh, wait, do you keep saying this? This is the same one. That may just repeated. I was like, haven't I read that already? So I wasn't crazy. I wasn't. Little Ray sends in a super chat and says, I felt like Monica was pretty much sidelined as soon as she got her powers. She really didn't do anything significant. Yeah, it's true. I don't know what she would have done that was significant, but, but you're not wrong. I just don't know what she would have done. The Nerd Errant sent in a super chat and said, I had no expectations. I was just pissed we have to wait to see what's next. Also, I called it that Monica belonged in the sky, not at a desk. Yeah, man, I'm happy to see Monica Rambeau be Captain Marvel or a Captain Marvel or whatever they're going to call her. Because I loved her when I was growing up, reading her in all the Avengers comics. It's good to see her come back. I'm excited. Or a character like her. Or her. Sorry, as I pick my teeth doing this video. Yes. Yes, and I'm excited. I also want a hot toy of her. Falcon and Winter Soldier. To match the excitement and momentum going forward, going for the MCU. Can I just suddenly not talk? Falcon and Winter Soldier says, to match the excitement and momentum going for the MCU, hashtag Faith in Feige. P.S. Can't wait to watch the last episode until Sunday. Do you have to wait? Why do you have to wait? You're a grown-up. We don't have to wait anymore. We can do whatever we want. Our parents can't tell us no, by God. Eric Benson sent in a super chat and says, John, with WandaVision being as good or even better than some MCU movies, how much pressure does pardon me, I thought it was Falcon and Winter Soldier. No, let me do that again, Eric. It's Eric Benson sending in a very nice super chat with John. With WandaVision being as good or even better than some MCU movies, how much pressure does that put on the Falcon and Winter Soldier to match the excitement and momentum going forward in the MCU? Hashtag Faith in Feige. P.S. Can't wait to watch the last episode until Sunday. You know what, Eric? I think that's a really great, ultimately, observation. I think that WandaVision sets a really high bar, and at least from the trailers we've seen for both Loki and Falcon and Winter Soldier, there's a lot riding here. They've spent a lot of money. They spared no expense. I mean, WandaVision looked like a movie. It certainly had incredible production value. I think if this is the tone that they're going to set, I think their series are indistinguishable from their movies at this point. I mean, obviously using one as an example, but if that's what they're going to do going forward, man, I think we're all in for a treat. But I do think that there's a pressure to keep up a certain amount of quality for each show. And it looks like they certainly penetrated the cultural zeitgeist. And I think that probably great. It's probably great. I think that the pressure's great, but they're certainly living up to the expectation. Eric Flynn sends in a super chat and says, WandaVision was a great show. 3 questions. 1, how was it Pietro had super speed while being controlled by Agatha? 2, what happened to White Vision? And 3, why was the director arrested? To the non-involved person, he just tried to neutralize the threat to Westview. I understand he's a dick, but still. Well, to answer those, I think that Pietro was I think that part of the spell or creating Pietro or whatever was that Agnes was able to give him superpowers as part of a spell, an illusion spell or whatever, because he had to appear as if he was Pietro. Who knows? The White Vision. I was wondering where'd Vision go? Back to Avengers HQ? I mean, I guess that's where I would go. Go look for Wanda. I'm like, where did Wanda get this choice piece of real estate on Wandagore Mountain? I mean, what's up with that? So, and number 3, I don't know why the director was arrested. It was kind of weird. Like, why was he being vilified? What did he do that was so bad? Like you said, he's just trying to neutralize the threat. He was doing his job. Literally. Little Ray sends in a super chat and says, so I'm curious, John, I see you tweeted that you enjoyed the finale, but I want to know what were some of the things you didn't like. Well, you've kind of been hearing it from me over this chat, but I really didn't like that they used Evan Peters. I thought that where that went was unfair to the astute audience. It doesn't make sense that Agatha just made some random guy look like Evan Peters. It just was bizarre to me. It really was. I thought was strange, and I thought that was my biggest problem, because once they did that, they certainly instilled in us an expectation of what was going on. Kevin Laniel sends in a super chat and says, I know it's not for everyone, but personally I could listen to both Visions talking philosophy for hours. I love that. I thought their conversation was great. I was there for that. I could absolutely, just like you, been there and just watch that forever. Absolutely. Slarf sent in a super chat. It says, I'm sad this show is over. I'm going to miss the Hex. I kind of will too. Kevin Laniel sends in another super chat and says, I think the Skrull was referring to Nick Fury, not Captain Marvel. I do too. I think the Skrull was absolutely referring to Nick Fury. I honestly think that you're exactly right about that. 100%. Amanda Burns says, the show's called WandaVision, so why be upset when the show is about them, not X-Men or Fantastic Four? I enjoy the show without the cameos. I think so too. It's just that we were set up for this, and everybody was speculating, and the speculation ran rampant. And I think you're right. I think there's no reason we should have expected these things. You go by what the Marvel Cinematic Universe has given to us, and that what we expect or what we believe. But I think you're absolutely right. There was really no reason when you go back and look at it. Everybody was just making that stuff up. But it was expectations that have been set for us over the last 13 years of Marvel movies and the comics and all that. Amanda Burns sends in a $4.99 super chat. Monica needs work as a hero. She shouldn't give Wanda a free pass. These people have a right to be upset, and they don't owe Wanda anything. I agree. I absolutely agree. But in a way, it was power run amok. Did Wanda know it was all what she was doing was, it's a hard one. Or was she just a straight up villain? I don't know. Juan Lopez sends in a super chat and says, I can respectfully say that the Scarlet Witch outfit with the crown was hot. Yes, it was. I loved it and everything else in the episode, especially the rune scene from Wanda. It was pretty. I mean, what's not to love? I really did think it was a lot of fun for the most part, and that costume was great. Seeing her finally manifest it, terrific. Like you, I enjoyed it, and it was hot. Go Jedi Janie sends in a super chat and says, twins tucked in with Hop into bed like a bunny, Sir Scratchy, and snug as a bug like Cicada on the curtain. Maybe transforming allows to escape the Hex alive. Could be. I don't know about that. I think it might have just been coincidence. But then again, is anything in the show a coincidence? So maybe. I kind of like that. I don't know where the kids went, but it's nice to know. I think they're safe, hopefully. Stars sent in a super chat and said, I have some gripes, but I want to start by saying I love the show and the finale was nice. I dislike the wild theories and prefer the sensible ending. Yeah, I mean, look, I think everyone loved speculating, but clearly, I don't want to think that we picked a better ending, but the show that we were describing was pretty epic. And I think that what we should have remembered, it was called WandaVision, and it ended as Wanda's story, and I think that that's something everybody needs to remember. And I think you're right. It has a sensible ending. Aiden Atkins sends in a super chat and says, "G'day, mate. Bloody hell, that episode. We know nothing." No, I think Sam Raimi had to direct that last credit scene and that we will see White Vision again in Armor Wars. Or not, because, well, Kevin Feige. Yeah, we shall see. I like that. I like Vision coming back in Armor Wars. Maybe Ultron, too. I mean, that's going to be really interesting to see what happens. Daniel Weiss says, "I am bathing in the tears of the Fox Quicksilver theorists." Come on now, Daniel. Don't do that to your fellow fans. Be nice. Star sent in a super chat and says, "I like Monica. She felt central to the plot at first, but she didn't affect the conclusion. Wish she had a bit more purpose, but we'll see her again." Yeah, I mean, I really liked her. I thought she was great. We will see her again. I think she's a great character. She's got a cornerstone into the Marvel Cinematic Universe because she's been a long time Marvel Comics character for decades. So it's good to have her. I really thought she was appealing. Everything about Monica I liked. So Stars sent in a super chat and says, "Now it's wrapped. I'm not a fan of the Pietro plot. I'm not into the multiverse stuff. It's not my issue. I don't feel it made sense in the story. I figured Wanda felt some cosmic connection to him. But if he was a random guy, it's odd Wanda would accept he was Pietro, or Agnes would think she'd fall for it. That's evil Hayward level genius, I guess." I agree with you. I'm like, in hindsight, what are you trying to accomplish? It's not really Pietro. It's a guy that looks like a Quicksilver from another universe. I didn't get that at all. I thought it was really, ultimately, in hindsight, that was the thing I thought was most weird about the whole show. Like, again, why do you do that? Corey Terrell sends in a super chat and says, "Wow, nobody had it right. I have to admit, I did not think Vision and the kids were tied to the Hex. You nailed it there. So does White Vision have his memory?" I think at the end it's insinuated that yes, he does. That he has all of Vision's memories, or somehow. I think that's what happened. We'll have to see when he comes back again, because where did White Vision go? He just upped and left. Up and away. Bye-bye. Ryan Lohner sends in a super chat and says, "Vision himself said it best back in Age of Ultron. A thing isn't beautiful because it lasts." I agree. The wisdom of Vision. I can see it coming as a new book from, maybe it has a foreword by one of the great, philosophers of our time, Jordan Peterson. Something like that. We'll see. Peter Cunnington sends in a super chat and says, "You were so right about Vision and the kids." John was right about Vision and the kids. I wonder if he'll ever let me hear the end of it, because we have yet to talk about the end of WandaVision. James Court sends in a super chat and says, "How connected do you think Strange will be to this now? I hope it's not just a throwaway line like, 'I'm training Wanda because she got powerful recently.' Oh no, I think it's going to be a big deal. Obviously, this kind of magic cannot stay unchecked in the Marvel Universe. At least I don't think it can. I think that Strange is going to have to jump in and deal with some things here, because it's pretty immense what's happening here." So, Little Ray sends in a super chat. Says, "Can I just say Paul Bettany's performance as Vision and White Vision was 10 out of 10. Vision is officially one of my favorite MCU characters now." Me too. I've always loved Vision ever since he shows up in Age of Ultron. I think he's amazing. I loved it. I loved him. I thought, bring it on. I've loved his character. I loved him in the comics. He's always been a favorite Avenger, one of my favorite Avengers, and I've been reading about him for 40 plus years. So, absolutely. I'm with you. Gio sends in a super chat. "Love evil Wanda. Can't call her an Avenger. Too evil." Yeah, we kind of don't know where the Avengers are at. Are there still Avengers? I guess we're going to find out in Falcon and Winter Soldier. Or Falcon and Winter Snowman, as I like to say. We shall see. It's a really good question, Little Ray. I don't know. Actually, Little Ray, Gio. Oh, that was Gio. It was not Little Ray who sent that question. It was Gio who sent that question. So we'll see. I hope that Falcon and Winter Soldier hips us to the status of the Avengers now. Who knows if it will. Frederick Nicholas Jr. sent in a super chat and says, "Wanda is officially the strongest person in the MCU. Any objections?" Well, she is in terms of, but what's her weakness? Can Strange stop chaos magic? But the fact that she's a Nexus being and the Scarlet Witch Does that make her that powerful? I mean, if it does, I think what we need is a little judgment, a little knowledge of what exactly her powers are. How far do they go? I don't know. Robert Collins says Agatha gave Quicksilver a boner. All right, that wasn't so bad. That was kind of funny. I'm chuckling. Vin Smoke Sanji says, "Hi John and Ann. Well, my wide and sorry my Wi-Fi, and I love the finale. And holy shit, Wanda is pulling a Doctor Strange to learn all the dangerous tricks from the Darkhold with Doctor Strange theme music as well. What's her first goal? I'm bringing my kids back. You know what? I think you're probably right about that. And I think that maybe bringing her kids back outside the Hex might have some serious ramifications to the universe. I mean, when you're using the power of creation like that, Mother Nature and God or whatever's up there can't be that happy about it. So we'll see what happens as a result of that. Vince Moxange goes on and says, her costume reveal was amazing. And some of us called it, but that headpiece would show up when she powers up, but I didn't expect the full costume. I thought it was great. I love that costume. I thought it was great. She looks part heroic, part sexy. Let's not lie about it. Elizabeth Olsen is gorgeous. Part terrifying. Cosplayers are going to go nuts. Oh, yeah. I expect that costume to be all over the San Diego Comic-Con if we ever have another one. Absolutely. 100%. Sands goes on to say, so many theories debunked. Pietro is Ralph, big laugh. No Mephisto, Doctor Strange, X-Men, or Fantastic Four. No Vision fusion, but he's kind of back. And no Skywalker cameo. To be honest, kind of bummed about all that, but what are you going to do? Keith Gilmore sent a super chat and said, hey, John and Ann, I love the pre-post coverage on WandaVision. Now that Wanda's story is over and she's officially the Scarlet Witch with no big bad appearing on the show, who do you think will be the big bad of Doctor Strange 2? Well, with the Darkhold and the history, I think Chthon. You know, I think that sounds like a cool Doctor Strange villain to stick in the movie. I mean, Chthon, I don't know how they're going to make what they're going to make him look like. But I think that's, you know, you had Dormammu and Chthon would be an awesome continuation. But again, we shall see. We shall see. Vince Moxange goes on to say, I liked how Wanda quickly learned from her interaction with Agatha. I did not see the runes spell coming when she was missing her target. Yeah, I thought that was really good. She learned quickly. And it was good stuff, man. I really enjoyed all that interaction. I was really into it. I thought it was really, really good. Vince Smoke Sanj says, so there's a link with Spider-Man 2 Far From Home with the Skrull and the ship Fury's on. He probably already knows about the bad Skrulls and the secret invasion. Oh, I would imagine so. They're setting all of that up. They're definitely setting all of that up. For sure. Sean R. says, no way they go full villain with Wanda now she has redeemed herself. I expect she opens up a can of worms in Doctor Strange 2 somehow, and they'll both have to fix it. Yeah, or somebody comes for Wanda because of how powerful she is, and Doctor Strange has to go get her, or something. Something like that, but yes. Tim Wills sends in a super chat and says, but I don't need you to tell me who I am. What a boss. Chills, also happy they managed to bring Vision back. The finale was an awesome mix of tragedy with hope for the future. Thanks for all that you do. Well, Tim, I agree with that. I thought that the finale had stuff for everyone, unless, of course, you were expecting all those theories of yours and ours and mine to be realized, which they weren't. But I think for the end of the show, it gave us a good end of the show, definitely for what it was. Tim Wills sends in a super chat and says, oh, I already read you that. Niger Kajina says, Henry Cavill is talking with Marvel Studios. I personally would love to see him play Cyclops. He looks the part. I think he's a little old to play Cyclops. I think they would go younger. But I'd love to have him in the MCU. But Cyclops, well, maybe. I mean, they could. He'd be a great Cyclops. But again, I don't know. Vince Smoke Sands says, let's talk about Hayward. Pointing his weapons at kids is irredeemable. It is. And he did. You can't deny he was a bad guy now. My first name is Sanj, by the way. Oh, so it's Sanj Vinsmoke. I get it. I understand. I'm glad to know that. J-Meister 25. Yeah, once you can't point guns at kids, man. JMeister25 sends in a super chat and says, WandaVision, Portrait of a Comic Book Family. I really hope for years to come Hollywood looks back and says, wow, that was really something special. Is there any doubt now that Marvel has reached Star Wars level respect? Well, I think maybe it had. Star Wars has just been around a lot longer. But certainly Marvel has made a lot more money than Star Wars has. 25 or 24, well, 23 now. 23, it'll be 24 with Black Widow. Movies that have an average gross of $1 billion, there's no comparison. So it's pretty amazing. But again, will the Marvel Cinematic Universe endure for 40 years the way Star Wars has? That remains to be seen. Sanj Vinsmoke says, we still have two big questions. Where did White Vision go? What happened to Agatha's prison when the Hex came down? Is she still a puppet of Wanda? Those are great questions. I think Wanda, we saw her off on her own. She probably, Agnes and her parted ways, I'm sure. And then also, White Vision, I think he probably went back to Avengers headquarters. Or maybe he went back to Sokovia. I don't know where. Maybe he's looking for Wanda. I don't know. Who knows? We'll find out, though. They're going to tell us. Dave's Not Here sends in a super chat and says, hey, John, I knew it. The town is drowning in her grief. Dark. I thought the philosophical vision discussion was great. Who is the bunny? Who is the bunny indeed? Maybe the bunny's just a bunny. That's what I was thinking. Mr. Scratchy is just a bunny. But maybe not. You never know. Sanj Vinsmoke sends in another super chat and says, am I wrong to think that Marvel was just flexing on us? Like, don't worry, guys. We will one day do Dark Phoenix right. You know, I don't necessarily know if they're thinking about that. I'll bet you if they do it, they're going to finally, if Marvel brings in the mutants, they'll end up doing the Dark Phoenix storyline correctly. I think, because, man, they haven't done it right yet. Peter O'Callaghan sends in a super chat and says, hi, John. First time message from England. Good final. Do you think Wanda, from England. Good final episode. Do you think Wanda having the Darkhold could lead to Chthon being released by Wanda in Doctor Strange 2? I think so. That's my bet. Sanj Vinsmoke says, what a way to start their Disney Plus shows. And even if it wasn't the original plan, starting with WandaVision was a big power move by Feige. I think so too. It might have been imposed on him, but I think it really worked out well. I mean, look at the, I don't know what the subscriptions were that were generated during that show, but man, a lot of people watched it. So that's really, really exciting. X Lair sends in a $20 super chat and says, they made it a point to emphasize Pietro's name as Ralph Boner. Then we find out Dottie's real name was Sarah. We didn't see Pietro outside the Hex. Does this point to his story and significance still being up in the air? I don't think so. I think they really wrapped it up. I don't think we're ever going to see Evan Peters again. I don't think we're going to see that iteration of Quicksilver ever again. I think what they're going to do with him, they did with him, and that was it. They're trolling us the whole time, those bastards. Quentin Shibusawa says, hi, John. I love the episode, and especially the full Scarlet Witch reveal. The second post-credit scene reminded me of the end of The Incredible Hulk when Bruce is in a cabin out in the forest. You're not the first to say that, and I think there's absolutely something there. The reveal of Scarlet Witch was great, and her being alone in the woods out there with her thoughts in the Darkhold. I don't know if anything good can come of that, but I certainly was there for it. It looked good to me. Crazy. Sanj Vinsmoke says, this one's for my other half who wants you to admit Hayward was a bad guy. Her money, not mine. I can't go there. I mean, he was a dick, sure, but what did he do that was so bad? He was trying to solve this major problem, and that's what Sword's there for. So I have to tell you, Sanj Vinsmoke, I hope your better half's not mad at me. But what can I do? Matthew Cassidy sent in a super chat and says, I know some will be disappointed, but you have to remember, this is Wanda's show, not an Avengers show. Agatha will be back, proved Wanda is more powerful than Doctor Strange, at least in theory. This was supposed to be the fourth project, not the first in Phase 4. Trust in Feige. The X-Men aren't coming for a while. I agree with that, Matthew Cassidy. I think you're absolutely right. And you're right. Trust in Feige. Let it all play out. And look, everybody was loving the hell out of this, totally enjoying it. It was totally off the wall and weird and wacky. And I was going to say weird and wiki, but wacky. I think we definitely got our money's worth out of this for sure. A lot of entertainment there. Sanj Vinsmoke says, Okay, last one, just to acknowledge the superb work Feige, the showrunners, and the writers did. And also, thank you, John, for all the great shows. Yes, John does put on great shows. I like being a part of them. So, Sanj, Vinsmoke, you and your lady, big thank you to you both. And hope all is well. We look forward to seeing you in the Falcon and Winter Snowman chats. Oops, there, I did it again. And also the Loki chats. And there'll probably be a spoiler review for Black Widow if it comes out. We shall see. Double Crit sends in a super chat and says, that Scarlet Witch outfit is so sexy. That's how Double Crit wrote it. So, you are right. I'm so there for, she is bringing sexy back. Not that it ever went anywhere. But absolutely, I agree with you 100%. Raymond Verada sends in a super chat and says, in the credits, the theme was done by Kristen Anderson Lopez and Robert Lopez. He's the only 2-time EGOT winner and a good Filipino kid. Did Frozen, Coco... did Frozen and Coco. Well, amazing music, and he deserves everything he gets, and I'm glad he's a good Filipino kid. Always a good thing. David Peace Magic sends in a super chat and says, I love how Wanda started in denial and moved through anger and bargaining until she gives up in episode 7 and has depression until she finally accepts it. Yeah, Dr. Kubler-Ross with a K. Anger, denial, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Those are the stages of death, according to Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. I think it's a very astute observation, Raymond, and absolutely correct. I think it's totally a part of the show. I believe that. David Pierce Magic says, I love how Wanda... that was what you... Why am I saying Raymond? Raymond was talking about Robert Lopez, and what am I... Can I not read? So David Pierce Magic said that, and I agree. The stages, the 5 stages of death, as identified by Dr. Kubler-Ross with a K. Jeffrey Pemberton sends in a super chat and says, I guess we can bury Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. now. Haha. Well, with the Darkhold in WandaVision, I think for the most part... Probably gone, not canonical. Bye-bye, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. For those of you who loved it, I feel bad. But, I understand. Frankie sends in a super chat and says, I'm okay with my guesses being wrong, but I felt led on by Disney with the giant Evan Peters red herring for a boner joke. Surely Disney isn't naive. You know what? I'm with you 100%, Frankie. I feel that was a real... They set us up to believe something, and the misdirect, it's what? Like you said, for dick jokes? I thought that was not so good. Didn't like it. Dylan Chavez says, thoughts on White Vision being unlocked by Fake Vision and where did he fly off to? What is his role in the future MCU? Your thoughts? Stay filthy. Again, if I was him, I'd go straight back to Avengers headquarters and be like, yo, what's up? Because all he remembers is the pre-snap happened, and then does he know all about the 5 intervening years that he was dead? It'd be interesting. I think he probably would have went back to Avengers HQ. That's where I think he would have gone. After all, it's not like he had a childhood. Tony Stark created him, and he doesn't even know Tony Stark's dead. Imagine that. Like, I want to see my dad. He's gone. Well, what? Didn't the snap bring him back? No. So we shall see. Delonzo Edwards sends in a super chat and says, why does this keep drifting this way? Wanda's grief doesn't absolve her of causing others pains. Intentional red herrings and misdirects. Yeah, it's interesting. Do you really think that the intention was A, but the execution was F? I thought there's so much to like about the execution. I can't give it an F. I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's fair at all. Jmeister25, it's worth more than that. Jmeister25 sent in a super chat and says, Wanda's runes were her limit break if you catch my Final Fantasy drift. Oh, I see what you did there. When you're nearly defeated, you dig deep and kick series butt. MCU is an RPG. Interesting analogy. I don't think it's a bad one either. But yeah, you do. You are at the end of your rope, and then you dig deep, and it's really good. I think you're absolutely right. I agree. Juan Lopez sends in a super chat and says, so most of us were right that is the Darkhold, except the difference is that it isn't the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Darkhold, so Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is not canon, and that's confirmed. I agree. I don't think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was ever going to be canon. It's speculative at best, but that's okay. I don't mind that. It was just a different take on the MCU. Dale N. Tuck sends in a very nice super chat. Thank you, Dale N. Tuck. Hey, John, thanks again for doing these shows. It looks like a good part of your top 10 questions were given answers in the finale. Are you satisfied? You know what? I helped with those top 10 questions. I got to read them with John. I think for the most part, when you think about the questions that were asked, yes. I think for its own sake, what the show is trying to do, I think it was true to itself. What it wasn't true was to the viewers. And I'm thinking, well, why does it have to be? I think what it did was exactly what it was supposed to do. And I ultimately can't say that I have any complaints. I really can't. I really can't. So I think you're absolutely right. Well, I don't know if you actually are commenting on that, but I think that for the most part, I'm satisfied. There's a lot of speculation that I wish was true, but that doesn't mean that speculation was not based on the show itself, ultimately. And you have to ask yourself, did the show deliver on the promise of itself? And I think it really did. David Peace Magic sends in a super chat and says, after all of New York, Lagos, Ultron, Snap, the Hex, and Spider-Man, it could lead to a world where people start to disown mutant kids instead of keeping their secret, and a hidden school for mutants is uncovered. I like the way you think. I don't think that is too far from what's going to happen, or definitely the realm of possibility. I think you're very much onto something there. Sober 687 says, Paul Bettany sure seems to have great chemistry with Paul Bettany. He does, man, but that's not easy to do. You're acting opposite something that's not really there. So, Michael Hamilton sends in a super chat and says, oh my God, it was the Darkhold all along. Yes, Michael Hamilton, it was the Darkhold. And does that mean Chthon's involved? I don't know, but we'll see. It certainly left Wanda off in an interesting place. Jace Little sends in a super chat and says, where did the White Vision go, and how did the Hex give White Vision memories he didn't have? They definitely trolled us, Witness, Protect, Engineer, and Paul Bettany. I agree, Jace. There's a lot they didn't answer. They set all this up, and they didn't answer it. I still want to believe that there's an extra added. We're all going to tune in for the making of WandaVision. We're going to get an extra 10th episode. I don't really believe that, but if we did, it would be really cool. I do think Vision probably went back to Avengers HQ. I think that's where he'd probably go. I really do. Although, maybe he went back to his home that he shared overseas with Wanda, where they were holed up before Thanos came to town. Michael Hamilton sent a super chat in and said, I'm guessing the Darkhold is what sets up the Multiverse of Madness and Spider-Man No Way Home. I think it's probably a good bet. I think absolutely that's what's going on. Belk Forever sends in a super chat and says, thanks for all you do with this channel. I've always had your videos on when I'm gaming or drawing. As for WandaVision, my wife and I cried so much. Pain. Well, first of all, thanks for watching the show and your drawing. I like the fact that the John Campea Show is responsible for creating art. And I agree. I think WandaVision was a lot of cry time. And look, dealing with grief was audacious. And they did it in a pretty realistic way. Who would have thought there was going to be that much emotion in a comic book franchise movie? Oh, wait. Kevin Feige did. That's right. Dale N. Tuck sends in a super chat and says, I like the part where Billy and Tommy take care of the military. It seems when Tommy takes the military's guns and takes that one guy's hat, that seems like a reference to the scene in X-Men Days of Future Pasts with Peter Maximoff. You know what? I was thinking that myself. I think you're absolutely right. I like that scene a lot. I really like those kids, man. I hope they bring him back. I hope Speed and Wiccan stay in the MCU for a while. I mean, think about it. You got Speed and Wiccan. You got Monica Rambeau. You got whoever she's going to be called, Pulsar, Polaris. Why not Captain Marvel? Why not? I wanted to be Captain Marvel so damn bad. But yeah, it's great stuff. Keith Gilmore sends in a super chat and says, hey, John and Ann, I was just thinking about this. Paul Bettany is the elder statesman of the MCU, 7 movies and an epic show. He's completely underappreciated and one of the best actors of the MCU. Oh, I don't think he's underappreciated. After all, they did turn him into Vision and gave him this great show. So I think Paul Bettany is really very much beloved by everybody. And I think he's totally one of the most vibrant members of the MCU. I think it's great. Really a big fan of everything he's doing. Plus, I really like that original Vision costume, too. It makes one heck of a hot toy. I love him. Iconic Reactions says, sorry, John, but after Hayward shot at Wanda's kids, I instantly lost respect for him, whether they were real or not. I know, he shouldn't have done that. That was bad news. Come on, Hayward. Bad. That was the worst thing he probably did. But were they real? And he knows they're not real, so it's not like they're real flesh and blood kids, or are they? I can understand to him they're just manifestations of more evil power. Mike's thoughts about stuff sent in a super chat and says, "Hey John, please look up episode 5 and 6 promo. There are shots in that trailer that weren't in the show. Wanda is in all white. Please explain what you think." You know, things get cut, and all I can say is that I noticed a lot of that, and I don't know where all that was. I would say that things just get cut out in the editorial process. I don't know. I don't think it means anything necessarily. It's just something that happens. Cameron Mulig says, "John, I was very satisfied, especially compared to my initial expectations. Wanda is now one of the best and most exciting characters in the MCU, if not the most. Come back to Billis Mafia New England sucks now that Tom left." Oh, Billis. Did I say, what? Come back to the Bills Mafia Northeast. Wait, let me get this right, Cameron, for you. Cameron, you said that Wanda is one of the best and most exciting characters in the MCU. I totally agree with that. I love Elizabeth Olsen. But this last sentence I apparently am having a problem with, but now I understand what you're trying to say. If not the most. Come back to the Bills Mafia Northeast. Pardon me, it's not Northeast because there's no period there. Okay, one more time. Come back to the Bills Mafia. New England sucks now that Tom left. I think that's what you're trying to say. Apparently, I didn't know how to say it. Raymond Verada sends in a super chat and says, "There were loose ends, like where did White Vision go? What happened to Darcy, and what about Ralph? There must be a Snyder cut of WandaVision somewhere. Maybe I too am at a loss. Why were those questions left unanswered? Where did White Vision go? Who is Ralph? I have no idea. It was crazy. Like, you'd think they would answer those questions. I don't know." Brazilian Dude says, "Wanda and Vision's goodbye was so beautiful and heartbreaking. Love the series finale, even with the not so great fake trio. It's not fake trio resolution and no cameo. But again, yeah, I thought the fake Pietro resolution and no cameo. I don't know why we all thought there was going to be a cameo, but it was a bummer there wasn't one. Jordan R. says, "With how epic WandaVision has been, the ending seemed generic." You know what, Jordan? I kind of felt that way too. I did. Couldn't it have been more interesting, less generic? You know what? I don't think you're wrong. Michael Hamilton says, "Don't go over to the Bills Army. Come to Raider Nation." And Hayward was a villain all along. Was he, though, or was he just doing his job? And Raider Nation? Or you want to go to Vegas? Actually, John loves Vegas. He probably would like to join the Raider Nation. Who knows? I bet he would. Peter Vincent Catulio sends in a super chat and says, "I'm more interested in the future with Agatha trapped, Wanda learning Darkhold, Hayward in prison, etc., than the disappointment of some fans who set themselves up." Can we move on quickly from that? I think so. I think people will forget what they didn't get and concentrate on what they did get. It's going to be interesting on Friday to see the making of WandaVision. And then, of course, the next Friday we're jumping into Falcon and Winter Snowman, the Falcon and Winter Soldier, and we're gonna forget all about the things we didn't like about WandaVision. And I think Falcon and Winter Soldier looks great. So we'll see what happens. Let's see. The Egeon Chronicle. What a great finale, right? Still left many things open. We will see in the future, like White Vision, but I enjoy the things that did get resolved. I saw that Ralph reveal coming. Still awesome ending. I agree. I think so too. I like the White Vision a lot. Who knows where it's all going to go, but I liked it. I thought it was absolutely cool. Very cool. D-Man sends in a super chat and says, "Do you think that final after credit scene was shot during Doctor Strange's 2 shooting? It had some real Evil Dead vibes with the camera movements throughout the cabin, and also you hear a variation Doctor Strange's theme." I think it might have been. Could very well be. It looked like that was a lake in Europe somewhere too. So unless it's all CG, who knows? I think you might be right. Nerd Windu sends in a super chat and says, "Vision, I know we can't stay like this, Wanda, but before I go, I must know, what am I?" She hesitates for a moment. "Wanda, love, persevering." What a great sentiment, especially because of where we've all been for the last year. Jermaine Smith sends in a super chat and says, people should have looked at this as if it was a Scarlet Witch movie instead of a WandaVision series, and maybe people wouldn't have been disappointed. I agree. I think you're right. But again, I think people were more disappointed because they were reading things into this that weren't necessarily there, which was really kind of weird if you think about it. Peter Vincent Catulio sends in a 257 super chat and says, Wanda is more dangerous now, looking like she is fire on the outside, but her subconscious and astral plane is totally not. I think that's a good point. I think you're making a very, very good point. We cannot forget that. I agree with you. I agree. She's not fine on the outside. She's not fine on the inside. I mean, that's not good. Empire Fan 1980 sends in a super chat and says, Tony comes back. What he missed. Wanda's now a thing called the Scarlet Witch, and we'll have a Dark Phoenix and a Merc with a foul mouth if you like him. Can you imagine? I don't think Tony's coming back, though. At least not the way we might think. I don't think so. But that'll be pretty funny to explain all that. Brazilian Dude sends in one of 3 super chats. Prediction for Doctor Strange 2. After discovering that her kids exist somewhere in the multiverse, Wanda will use the Darkhold's magic to go after them. I think that's a pretty good bet. This will open a multiverse of madness, unleashing Chthon. Doctor Strange and Wanda will eventually have to team up to undo her mess and defeat Chthon. Chthon created the Darkhold. In the end, Wanda is reunited with White Vision and her kids, and both will eventually join the Young Avengers. Ooh, I'm there for you, Brazilian Dude. I think that's definitely, you know what? If that's what they do in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, it's got the right amount of pathos. I think that if they do that, I think that's a great way to go. I don't know if that's what they're going to do, but I do think that's a pretty good way to go, so why not? I like that idea. I like that idea a lot. We'll see, but yeah, I think that's a good way to go. That sounds like a decent plot to me. And Chthon showing up because of the Darkhold, yeah. Count me in. Or maybe he takes the kids. Ended on a little tragic note and they have to go get them later. I don't know. Could be. D-Men5 sends in a super chat and says, actually, there's some good evidence that Ralph was the witness protection guy. Could be, but it's like, why bring that stuff up if you don't pay it off? Kind of weird. I don't understand. Empire Fan 1980 send in a super chat. Now I want to see Iron Man and Deadpool together. Can you imagine the jokes? I think everybody does. Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't? 6 is Hungry sent in a super chat. John, do you think a case can be made that Agatha was the lesser of 2 evils between herself and Wanda? Wanda enslaving an entire town is worse than anything we saw Agatha do. Yeah, I look, I think Agatha, you could even make a case that Agatha was helping people ultimately. Maybe. I think you're absolutely right about that, 6 is Hungry. Definitely an interesting perspective and not a wrong one. Christina B sends in a super chat and says, which we had a scene with Darcy, Jimmy, and Monica. I honestly, Christina, I'm with you 100%. That should have happened. Should have happened, and it didn't. I was bummed out about that. Peter Vincent Catulio sends in a super chat and says, agree or disagree? MCU fans overanalyze a lot. Well, let me tell you what I think. No, they do. But isn't that the fun of it? That's what's so much fun about being a big fan. At least I think so. I think so. We do overanalyze a lot. Michael Dewadu, that's a cool name, sends in a super chat and says, as in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., a character was creating whatever he wanted from nothing like Wanda with the Darkhold, but he was tearing holes in dimensions and realities. I think that's what's happening. And I think that's what's going to happen as she plays around with the Darkhold. I really do. I do. R. Henry 1980 sends in a super chat and says, did Vision get out with all the memories? Agatha tried to warn Wanda about the big bad. Also, at the end, one of the kids did say, Mom, help. I agree. There is something bigger and badder out there. I think we can almost be guaranteed of that. Who and what that is remains to be seen. But I think you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Max Ross says, Fietro protected in WITSEC under high security clearance touting Jimmy Woo. No explainer for powers. Quicksilver dream not over. Boner will rise. Max, buddy, I don't think so. I know you want it to be, but I don't think it's going to happen. Just me, but I just don't think it's going to happen. I could be wrong. Michael DeWadu sends in a super chat and says, and Ghost Rider was the only one able to stop him before it got real bad in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now combine that with Wanda's powers. She's literally going to be... let's see. She's literally going to be... maybe you say something later. I'll come back to it. Coach Smith, 1993, says, does it pain you more that you had everything gone as planned? Doctor Strange 2 would have been released 2 months from now. Ooh, is that the case? Boy, it's really too bad that isn't the... Oh, that would have been so good. You know what? What a bummer. What a bummer that Doctor Strange 2 was supposed to come out 2 months after this. Maybe that's the whole deal. Man, that would have been great. Oh, now you got me bummed out. I'm bummed now. Thanks a lot, Coach Smith. Carlos Lima sent in a super chat and says, hey, John, hope all is well. Just curious as to why would they tease a Luke Skywalker level cameo when there was none? Keep up the great work. Love everything you do to stay safe. You know what? I think when you were working on this show, the people that worked on it thought 2 visions could have been that very thing. Another vision showing up, to them, it seemed that big of a deal. And since the Luke Skywalker cameo is what was in everyone's mind because of Mandalorian, they just used that as an example, rightly or wrongly. I think we as fans jumped all over it and turned it into something it wasn't, frankly. Scott Brett sent in a super chat and says, you don't get mutant. You don't get a mutant. You don't get a mutant. Bring on the Oprah memes. Well, that's true. No mutant for you. No mutant for you. No mutant for you. Max Ross sent in a super chat and says, Vision knows a lot of philosophy for a sex toy. Was that an add-on for an extra billion? Come on now, Max. You could look at it that way, but he's fully functional like Data in the Next Generation. At least that's what I hear. Quentin Shibusawa sends in a super chat and says, wonder where the MCU is moving towards. Wanda's on the run, and 8 months later, Spider-Man is viewed as a murderer. 2 Avengers have turned evil in the public's eyes. Good point, Quentin. Good point. I like that. I like the way you think. Like, maybe all of the Avengers are going to be the Dark Avengers, and the Young Avengers have to replace them and go after them or something. That could be interesting, but you're absolutely right about this. Interesting. I mean, the way you putting it that way, Quentin, I like the way you think. I like where you're going with that. Yusuf Salimi sends in a super chat and says, greetings from Brampton, Ontario, John. Big Fran. I'm thinking Brampton, Big Frampton, like Peter Frampton. Ontario, John. Big fan since the movie blog. So stoked to see Doctor Strange in the Mouth of Madness. I keep saying that. The Multiverse of Madness. Your power exceeds that of the Sorcerer Supreme. Chills. Maybe a Strange versus Scarlet Witch battle. Thanks, and go, Leafs, go. I think absolutely Strange and Wanda are going to have a magic off, at least. I think we're going to see that. You know it's coming. Doesn't it have to be coming? Matt Whitting sends in a super chat and says, did anyone think the vines in Agatha's basement had something to do with the Nexus? I was thinking she had Man-Thing controlled, and that was going to be the start of the multiverse. Bruh. How awesome would it have been if Man-Thing showed up? I mean, on that would have been so... Little bit of a deep comic cut for those people unfamiliar with the Marvel Universe, but man, I would have loved that. That would have been so, as we say, dope-a-delica. Dope-a-delica. Zach Kahn sends in a super chat and says, overall loved it, but really was disappointed by the Pietro takeout. Why bring in Evan Peters just to mess with us? They hyped it up both inside and outside the show, and he's just a nobody. Again, Zach, that really bothered me the most. Because, I mean, it was they could have got any actor to play, but the fact that they got Evan Peters, I mean, that was something you knew you were trolling the audience by doing that. I was not down with that. Did not like it. Didn't like it. Wasn't prudent. Yeah, I didn't like it. So, I don't know. It was just to mess with us, and I thought it was kind of unfair, ultimately. Michael Dwadu sends in another super chat and says, making big holes in realities, which will literally be, oh, here's the rest of the thing. Let me go back, Michael. Let me go back to what you said. And Ghost Rider was the only one able to stop him before it got real bad in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, combine that with Wanda's powers, she's literally going to be making holes in realities, which will literally be a madness because she's chaos magic with the Darkhold. And from we know of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., now I got to go find, where are you? I'm looking. Oh, maybe you disappeared. Maybe that was the end of you. That was the end of what you were saying. Maybe not the end of you. But now we know from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Maybe that's what you meant to say. That is true. You're absolutely right, Michael. And that's a very astute observation. We saw that in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now we're going to see it writ large on the big screen in the multiverse of madness. I think you're absolutely right. Malik Hunter sends in a super chat and says, how do you like Wanda's Scarlet Witch costume scale 1 to 10? I'll give it a 9. I'm not going to go all the way to 10 on it. Also, this kind of ending reminded me of Wonder Woman 84, the whole concept of you can't have everything you wish for, but was executed way better for me. I agree. I think so too. Sean Medellin sends in a super chat and says, I'm surprisingly satisfied. None of the main theories came true. It felt good having something from Marvel that felt less Marvel, if that makes sense. Yeah. Danilo Lima sends in a super chat. But don't you kind of, like, I guess you're right. I mean, again, I talked about this on my own show today, how we're kind of our own worst enemies sometime, and I certainly do agree with you. I agree with you. It did make sense. And it did feel less Marvel, even though it was more Marvel than Marvel, but also less Marvel because it was dealing with grief, and that was something we don't normally see. And they've set this up all the way back to Civil War. You know, when she was in whatchamacallit, in Lagos. I mean, you're absolutely right. It's true. Good on you, Sean. Danilo Lima says, Hayward didn't know the kids weren't real. He sent the weapon in to kill Vision. He didn't know how real everything in the Hex was. Plus, Monica shooting... I don't know what that is. Maybe I'll have to go up. But, plus shooting Monica. Oh, that's... You ended that. You're right. Yeah, I mean, he was... That was bad. I don't know why he did that. Why did they make him that way? Like literally killing people? Nay sent in a super chat. Now, who the hell is Cliff? That Jimmy called. Cliff, that Jimmy called? I don't know. I don't get that one. I think I'm missing out. That Cliff. I'm thinking Jimmy Cliff. The harder they come? Maybe. I don't know if that's what you mean. But Nay, thank you for supporting the channel. Banshell Yasharala sends in a super chat and says, who do you think will win in a fight, Scarlet Witch or Phoenix's Jean Grey? That's a tough one. I would probably say Scarlet Witch because chaos magic. Jean Grey is a cosmic entity, but chaos magic can warp reality. So she could warp that cosmic entity right out of her hair if she needed to. But that's just a thought. I'm not sure. John Mayer sends in a super chat and says, how did fake Vision pass on memories of Thanos to White Vision when fake Vision said in earlier episodes that he couldn't remember anything? Good point. Maybe he was imbued with all of these memories for some reason, but I think that's a really good point to ask. But that's why somehow he got all the memories of Vision. Maybe something happened there. I'm not sure because the Vision, the White Vision was the actual original Vision, so maybe those memories weren't being passed him. They were his memories being turned on. That's kind of how I took it, I guess. John Eicher says, the final shot was an homage to Raimi's final pan in The End of Evil Dead. With the Doctor Strange score in the background, was he filming it? You know, people have said that, and I think you might be that. I could see that being something they would have done. And maybe we're going to see that very place again. Maybe they were actually filming in that cabin, and she happened to be there. You know, because she is in England, and they threw that in. It was the last episode, so it could have been the last thing they shot. So maybe it was. Maybe we're going to find out that was directed by Sam Raimi. Maybe we'll find out that in the making of show next week. Could be. Bully McGuire sends in a super chat and says the Darkhold can change its appearance, so it doesn't necessarily mean it's a retcon. Ooh, that's interesting. Yeah, but I think it probably is. I think it's probably a retcon. Vahaba Minoka sends in a super chat and says, I would really have loved to see the fight sequences of the episode on the big screen. I felt as if my television screen didn't do it any justice. You know what I always say, your TV can never be too big. And get a projector too. But you're probably not wrong on that one. So I don't necessarily disagree with you. Ashton Kawe sends in a super chat and says, if the kids are gone, does that mean she's hallucinating hearing them at the end? Plus, it's kind of weird she thanked them for choosing her to be their mom. Well, no, because, I mean, maybe they were part of the universe, chaos, whatever, and they decided to stick around because of her. Maybe it's some weird spiritual thing. I don't know. I kind of like that, though. I don't think she's hallucinating at the end at all. Or maybe that's what you're hearing, what she has in her mind, and she wants to find them. Maybe that's what she's cursed, to hear the echo of their voices until she finds them again or something. I'm not sure. Shamecat says in a super chat and says, I think it's Fox's Pietro more than ever. He's the witness in protection. A regular person doesn't laugh at their own name. Yeah, but why would he? I mean, maybe. It's hard to say. Spooky Castle Productions sends in a super chat and says, do you think Darcy should have done more in the finale? Yes. Yes, I do. She was so great in the show. I wish they didn't sideline her as much as they did. I thought that was really kind of disappointing. You know, I wanted to see more of her. She should have done more. Spooky Castle. All the dinosaurs feared the T-Rex sends in a super chat and says, 1 of 2. I loved episode 9. Loved it. I'm with you, John. It wasn't what I was expecting and it wasn't what I hoped for, but in Feige we trust. I'll be liking that Scarlet Witch super suit. Reminded me of Hela. It did. Yes. Yes. Now, where's the rest of all the dinosaurs? Well, you did say 1 of 2. I don't see it. What can I do? 1 of 2. I didn't see the second one. Maybe we'll come up there. Reminded me of Hela. That's a good place to end, though. KC McNatt sends in a super chat and says, so is Agatha just going to live in Westview and be the nosy neighbor to all the inhabitants there now? I don't think so. I think we need to, I think we're going to get more from her than just that. I don't think that's a good fate for Agatha Harkness. Damien says, but Mr. Steele would work. What a finale. Sadly, I feel like I had friends over for 9 weeks and now they've left. Amazing start for the MCU. You know what's funny about that, Damien? It's not just the show, but I see what you're going for. But it's also all of this. It's all of you guys. It's all this fan interaction. I feel like, what am I going to do with my life now there's no more WandaVision chats to read? But it's been great having everybody, you know, out here for this and all these questions and all this interaction. I will miss it. Mike Farino sends in a super chat and says, while I'm not mad he wasn't a mutant, I'm kind of upset there wasn't something more to the story with him. I agree. Because it was too interesting, and I'm bummed. I wanted more. Strange Day sends in a super chat and says, the Vision's having a philosophical conversation. Great scene. Who do you think created that arc reactor for White Vision? Couldn't have just been Sword. Well, maybe. Or maybe it was somebody else, you know, that was helping him out. You know, Don Cheadle was around during the blip. Maybe he was helping out. And maybe that'll have something that plays into Armor Wars. I don't know. Comic Dweeb says, any ideas for final actors for Wiccan and Speed? Oh, you know what, Comic? I couldn't answer that question because I don't know what their final ages would be. Are they going to keep them teenagers? Are they going to grow them up? I don't know. And as John would say, he would say something to the effect of, I don't care who the actors are. But I mean, I do care, but I just don't have any thoughts about it. I haven't thought about it. I have to like go through the IMDb and figure, maybe they could play them. But I don't know. I don't know who's going to play them. I don't know. God, the blessed one, sends in a super chat. Making Wanda the big bad, or at least the bad for Strange, would make this the best character building of a villain since Split. So much compassion will be felt in all of our future appearances. As a Marvel fan, I'm in heaven. Well, God, you're not wrong. I think you're absolutely right about that. It's a good way to put it. Absolutely. Jasmine Jones sent in a super chat and said, really good. You know, it's very funny. I think that you make a good point there. The idea of having that kind of emotional buildup and that kind of resonance to Wanda, and because she does go bad in the comics. Well, she's batshit nuts. But to see this kind of development I think it's really great. I mean, it's great character development. Really cool where it's going to go. I think as a Marvel fan, I too will join you, God, the Blessed One, in heaven. Jasmine Jones goes on to say, really good emotional ending for Wanda. Cool costume for her as well. Monica's powers are cool. Can't wait to see what she does. I am looking forward to seeing. I want Monica to get in that full-on. It was already the sword suit with the white and the black was all the sword sweatshirt or whatever. That was already like her classic costume in the Marvel comics, the black and white costume where she had the big fro and the white mask. I love that character, and I hope they go full-on Captain Marvel. Give her that costume because it's great. Why not? I love her. I've always loved her. I loved her. I always wanted, yeah, so bring her on. I want a hot toy of her. She's awesome. Cinda Flame sends in a super chat and says, ironic that Agatha made Wanda aware of being a witch. Before that, she thought she just had magic hands. For greed or power, Agatha has unleashed hell. Well, Cinda, you are right. Maybe that was the point. Maybe that's what Agatha wanted the whole time. To send it out, and that's exactly what it was all about. All about, yeah. Aaron Carranza says, hey, John, thought this finale was really good. I thought the scene with the kids saying goodbye, it was good, but I'm probably biased because I have a 2-year-old son. I think we're headed to West Coast Avengers. Could be, but I could see Young Avengers before I could see West Coast Avengers. Because the West Coast Avengers, look, I have every issue of that comic. It was always kind of goofy. But, hey, Moon Knight was in West Coast Avengers at one point, so... Christina B sends in a super chat and says, finale was an emotional miss for me. Ooh, felt a little too neat. The energy-throwing witch battle was bland. Wish they kept with the psychological warfare. It would have tied in more to the themes they set up. I don't disagree with you. They could have made it more adult. You know what? You're not wrong. I can't fault your logic there. I can't. Anthony Johnson sends in a super chat and says, love the show, but hated the finale. CGI action looked bad to me, and I dislike dialogue. The Monica Wanda conversation was hilariously cringy. I didn't think it was cringy. Look, they had to go full on comic book movie. It was, after all, a Marvel film, but I thought the show was great. I wasn't as satisfied with the finale, but I didn't think it was as cringy as all that. I think, it had to go. We had to get some comic book action, and it felt more comic booky than the rest of the show, which I like the surrealism and all that, but I think we needed that. Peter Quincy Catulio sends in a super chat and says, only Marapak fans fell for the MCU misdirects because Feige is pa-fall. Only Filipino fans will understand. Well, I'm a fan of the Philippines, and I don't know what that means, but I'm sure that Filipino fans will understand and is probably smiling from ear to ear. Dale N. Tuck sends in a super chat and says, did you notice the callback to Age of Ultron when Wanda creeps up on Agatha and gave her a nightmare? Gave me chills. Shooting red Wrigley Roos. Yes. And that was absolutely intentional. They were constantly referring back to Ultron a lot and harking back to that. Absolutely intentional. Bosch Tun sends in a super chat and says, someone mentioned that Ralph's bill in his house went back months, so it could have been the missing person. Maybe. Could be. I wish they just resolved those things. Why bring them up multiple times and let it linger and never tell us what it all meant? It kind of bummed me out. Billy McGuire sends out a super chat and says, I think the average superhero and MCU movie watcher will not find the Evan Peters being Mr. Boner as cool casting, but more of a disappointment. I agree, Bully. I agree. I think why go there? Why do that? And just disappoint people? Why? I still don't understand. I don't understand. Jason Rodriguez sends in a super chat and says, hi, John. I'm so surprised how much I love this show. Let's just enjoy a great show. I get caught up in the setup, but after the year we all had, I'm just okay with enjoying the great content. Thanks for all that you do. Well, Jason, thanks for supporting the channel. I agree. You know what? I agree. Sometimes I get sick of us fans, and I'm one of the biggest ones. Like, what about this? What about that? I wish we would, slow our roll and just enjoy things more. I think life would be better that way. I agree with you. Mellow B sends in a super chat and says, can someone make a petition for a Jimmy Woo X-Files spinoff series, and maybe that's how they introduce mutants into the MCU? Dude, Mellow, people have been talking about that. I would be there for that. I would love a Jimmy Woo. Jimmy Woo show would be great. He's great. And they could just call it Jimmy Woo FBI. Jimmy Woo, agent of the FBI. Why not? I think it'd be great. It'd be awesome. Delonzo Edwards sends in a super chat and says, John, you don't think Wanda violated the Sokovia Accords? Hayward did. She was trained by Captain America, and Monica got the drop on a speedster. Yes, she did. A lot of power flying around. A lot of flower flying around now. A lot of power flying around, and it was great. I don't know if Wanda, did she violate the Sokovia Accords? I mean, yeah, I guess she did, but it's not like, what do you do when one of the Avengers is riddled or struck down by grief after losing the weight of the world on her shoulders? You know, losing her brother, losing the man she loves, losing her parents. She is messed up. So I don't know if it's a violation of the Sokovia Accords, like to the letter of that law, but who knows? Natasha Scott sends in a super chat and says, I love the series. It was like reading comics back in the late 80s or early 90s for me. Evan Peters was hilarious and genius from Kevin Feige. It brought new viewers to the MCU. To be so invested as fans with our speculation shows why we all loved it. And by the way, you don't waste your biggest IP, X-Men Mutants. You plan to go big. Natasha, couldn't agree with you more. I thought they did a phenomenal job getting everybody involved. Everybody's so invested. I'm sure we'll find out in the future how many subscriptions were actually driven by that show, but I bet it was a lot. And I think that Evan Peters was hilarious, and we were all invested. I mean, I think that's great entertainment. And your final point is, yes, you don't just waste your biggest IP in X-Men and throw it all away. They're gonna introduce X-Men in a big way. It's gonna be unto itself. You're not gonna be introducing them piecemeal. I mean, we might see people show up, but they're gonna do a big film. So I agree with everything you said. Empire Fan 1980 sent in a super chat and says, I know it won't happen, but I hope like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., if they keep this Darkhold storyline going, we will get Ghost Rider. Well, I think they might have to at some point. I mean, people like Ghost Rider. They made 2 Ghost Rider movies with Nicolas Cage, and rebooting the first one. So I think maybe so. Yo Pierre says, despite many theories not coming true, I love this journey and I love your work, John. I'm just happy to know that there's a collective group around the world caring about the show as much as me. Thank you. Yo, Pierre, I think you're right about that. What's great about this show, especially all this fan interaction, is just seeing how we're all invested. Whether you like the finale or not, isn't it nice to see all this fan engagement? We all loved what we were watching, even if the end disappointed some. But what a great time to be alive when we can all agree on some great entertainment. I think it's really, we need more people like you pointing that out. And I think you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. The fact that we're all into it and we're all talking about it and couldn't wait to talk about it more, I think it's amazing. Peter Vincent Catulio sends in a super chat and says, Wanda is a good case study for psychologists, or a very scary case study for psychologists. Mike's thought about stuff sent in a super chat and says, I know you think Hayward isn't a bad guy, but how could you think he isn't, but Agatha is? What did Agatha do bad? All she did was try and stop Wanda. Well, Mike, I was saying from the beginning, I thought Agatha was teamed up with Strange. My big theory was that Agatha was there to protect the world, and so was Hayward. They were both doing what they thought was right. I mean, after all, it's everything that was going on. Monica turns into a superhero. There's superhero kids that never existed before. There's the Hex. I mean, this is crazy shit, and no one wants this to go on Earth all the time. So I agree with you. Barbarella Haymaker sends in a super chat and says, Hayward as Zodiac at the end of Phase 5. They did set up Thanos at the start of Phase 1. Wasp's father and Hayward are friends. Ooh, maybe. That could be. I could see something like that happening. I think we need justice for Hayward, though. Yeah, I mean, that could be Zodiac. I think they're going to... Zodiac at the end of Phase 5, maybe. I think we haven't seen which direction they're going to carry the whole MCU yet. If there's another big crossover movie, I don't think we've seen exactly what that's going to be. I think what's really going to be interesting is between Shang-Chi, the Eternals, we're seeing a different direction for the Marvel Universe, and I'm there for it. Harry Ord sent in a super chat and says, what did you make of both end credits that they showed you? Do you think it will set up for the next Spider-Man and or Doctor Strange? Oh, Harry, it's absolutely a setup for Doctor Strange. Absolutely. I don't know so much about I don't know if it's so much about Spider-Man yet, but it's certainly Doctor Strange, even though we're getting Spider-Man first. We shall see. Kaiser Soze sends in a super chat. How do I know it's a real super chat, Kaiser Soze? Considering Feige's 5-year plan, when do you think mutants will first be mentioned? Could they have a cameo in Doctor Strange 2 with a film years later? How likely is it Wanda brings mutants into the MCU one way or another? It's a question we've been asking ourselves for a long time, Kaiser Soze. If you want my honest opinion, I think mutants are already in the MCU. I think WandaVision pretty much showed us that Wanda was a mutant from the very beginning. And so we know that Pietro and Wanda are mutants, which means there's probably other mutants in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which means we just haven't seen them yet. And I think they're already here. And I don't think Wanda is going to bring them in. I think they're already here. We've seen that. Anal Jihad. Oh, my God, I hope not. Wanda enslaves children and thousands of people with no consequences besides dirty looks. Monica says she would do the same if she had the power. Yeah, they're bad. That's bad. But again, grief is a funny thing. But yes, I think that what Wanda did was bad. But remember, I'm not trying to absolve her of any responsibility or guilt, but it was only for a week. Only for a week. Nightwolf 18 says, the second after credit gave me Dark Phoenix feels. See if the Scarlet Witch goes out of control. Doctor Strange and Wanda versus Scarlet Witch in the second movie. No, I think Wanda, you mean Monica? I think Scarlet Witch is definitely going to go head-to-head with Doctor Strange. And her grief or her desire to be a mother again is going to lead her to tear open the dimensions to get her kids back. I think it's going to happen. Josie Review sends in a super chat and says, I was hoping Wanda would say, and this is for killing Sparky, you bitch. I know, man. Agnes killed a dog. Lest we not forget, they killed a dog in WandaVision, and as a dog owner, I was not happy about this. But yeah. Jordan RTK says it's going to be funny when Mordo shows up at her cabin. Yeah, that's going to be a good fight, though. Carlos Lima sends in a super chat and says, I hope Wanda ends up bringing back the real Quicksilver, Aaron Taylor Johnson, at some point. I really need him back. Well, Carlos, even Agatha said they couldn't because his bullet-ridden corpse, you can't really do much with it. Megalito Reyes sends in a super chat and says, hey, John, the second credit scene implied that Wanda is opening up the multiverse in order to find the twins and bring them into the prime reality, not to mention the other Young Avengers castings. I think you're right. I think we're going to get a Young Avengers movie. I think it's going to happen, and I think it's all being set up slowly, methodically. Ellie sends in a super chat and says, hey, John and Ann, hope all is well. How great would it be if Wanda, in her grief, ends up mistakenly summoning Shuma Gorath in her grief? How great would it be? I think, again, it's like a deep cut. You'd have to explain the backstory and all that, but I wouldn't say no. Like, why not? Frankie Gouge sends in a super chat and says, man, I have got it. Ralph Boner was a minor actor that played Pietro in a low-budget film about the events in Age of Ultron. I like that. You know what? If they had set that up, I would have been like, all right. I'll buy that. Blue Sky Gutierrez sends in a super chat and says, my programming directive is to destroy the Vision. After memories were unlocked, he said, I am Vision, then he flew away. Did he kill himself? No, he didn't kill himself. All that's changed. I think all of that's changed now. Sanj Vinsmoke says, Agatha wanted to take Wanda's power because she couldn't control it, nor deserved it. In the end, she wasn't a villain. She just wanted to save the world. I think there's definitely something to that. You know, I think that I was saying that Agatha was not bad. I mean, she literally was trying to save the world. Paul Gutierrez sends in a super chat and says, hi, John and Ann. Vision shedding that tear was a great callback to Avengers 58. Even an android can cry. Gave me the feels. Well, Paul, that's why the show's great. They're always looking back into the realm of comic books And I love that about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I really do. Winter Naomi Vera sends in a super chat and says, Peter Maximoff somehow crossed over from X-Men universe to MC universe, and he's in witness protection as Ralph. It's canon. I don't care what anyone says. Stay filthy. Yeah, but Winter Naomi Vera, I think they needed to do more than just... If that was the case, they had to tell us. I think they played fast and loose, and we deserve better. Mellow B sends in a super chat and says, has anyone else noticed how Scarlet Witch's outfit looks very similar to Magneto's outfit in Apocalypse? Coincidence? I think not. I noticed that, Mellow B. Some other people have too. And I think maybe they took... That was such a great outfit that I think somebody was like paying attention. But it's a great outfit, and you're absolutely right. It looks just like Magneto's, or similar. Similar, but I agree with you. Delonzo Edwards sends in a super chat and says, you reference House of M, where Professor X says we may have to kill her. Wanda's clearly a villain. Well, she is now, but we need to see where she's going. Does she become an around the bend complete psycho, or does she get brought back from the precipice by love, or Doctor Strange, or Vision, or both? We shall see. Kenneth sent in a super chat and says, you know how in Westerns, happy endings, the cowboy rides away into the sunset? Wanda flew in the opposite direction. Right straight into the eye of the storm and the darkness. You could very well be correct about that, Kenna. Jamie sends in a super chat and says, fake Quicksilver was much better than fake Mandarin. I don't know, man. I love Ben Kingsley's fake Mandarin, and he had some great stuff happen afterwards. I liked it. Frankie Gouge sends in a super chat and says, peeved about the Pietro thing. Why the hell not go full on and make his first name Richard? Well, I don't know why. Perhaps they could have, but they were trolling us. They are trolling us. Mr. 47 sends in a super chat and asks, who is Cliff? I'm not sure who Cliff is. Who is Cliff? Am I missing something? Is this a private joke that I'm not privy to? Are people making fun of me? No, they didn't know I was going to be reading these in the chat, so I don't know. I have no answer for you. Boston McCulloch sends in a super chat and says, Wanda, Wolverine, Tony, and Hulk all went to live in a cabin in the woods. Guess Marvel buys cabins in Canada to have their heroes to hide away in. Or in Europe, if they did shoot that scene in Europe, because that's where Elizabeth is shooting Doctor Strange now, maybe that's where they are. But yeah, you want some alone time, you go to the cabin. Why not? Andy J. Movie sends in a super chat and says, hey, John, been a fan since the movie blog days. Do you think WandaVision will get any major awards buzz? Personally, I think it deserves to. It might. I think definitely it's got to get Emmy nominations for the performances, for visual effects, for music, for everything. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Peter Vincent Catulio sends in a super chat and says, WandaVision, Philosophy 101 and Psychology 101. Yep. And isn't that amazing? How to get that from a comic book adaptation? Come on. How great is that? Jess sent in a super chat and says, what are the chances that the dark powers behind the Darkhold, Chthon, manipulated things so Wanda would end up with the Darkhold? Seriously, when would she and Vision have brought that plot in Westview? Interesting. They didn't seem to solidify their relationship to that point until they were fugitives in Infinity War, right before they got attacked. Wanda kind of looked surprised to see the deed at first. Was it planted? I think the whole thing was a little sketchy. What exactly? Agatha came and made that entire basement down there with the runes and the Darkhold and all that? There's a lot of fishy stuff that went on in this show that we are not going to get an answer to right away. So, Jess, not quite sure what the answers to all these questions are, but definitely a little strange. Mikey Really Likey sends in a super chat and says, I believe White Vision is Vision. As he said, I am Vision, contrasting his words from Age of Ultron, I'm not Jarvis and I'm not Ultron. I think you're right. I believe White Vision too. He is, in fact, Vision. It comes right out of the comic books. He's Vision. I believe he is. I agree with you 100%. TJ Thomas sends in a super chat and says, I thought White Vision would have been a new Ultron. How tragic would that be for Wanda? Very tragic, but I don't think we've seen the last of Ultron. I really don't. I think there's going to be more to it than that. Sammy P sends in a super chat. Over or under 50%, there will be a new Hot Toys Scarlet Witch in that new costume. I'm ready to pre-order Sideshow. No one's ready more than I am, Sammy P. You and I clearly park our shuttlecrafts in the same shuttle bay, which means we're on the same starship together, which means we probably have a great Hot Toys collection we can combine so the whole crew can enjoy it. I am with you 100%. I can't wait. I also want a white Vision. Wouldn't you? I want a white Vision. Everyone keeps saying Wanda will be the villain of Doctor Strange 2, but my question is, where does this leave Baron Mordo's role in Doctor Strange 2? Oh, I think he's going to be there too. I think he's don't think he's not. I think he's going to be there too. Millie Dancer sends in a super chat and says, being a mother, the length of time knowing the children doesn't matter. A mother loves her newborn just as fiercely as an adult child. Good point. A good point. I like that. I like that observation. And of course, you're correct. Zomagod Ruler sends in a super chat and says, it was an okay finale. Too many unanswered questions. Boy, but we're still talking about it, aren't we? But yeah, unanswered. But life is full of unanswered questions, isn't it? Come on, Zomagod Ruler. Zomagod. Antoine Fair says, I took the line as if she gave up her dream, her family, to save them once she knew she was hurting them. She knew that she trapped them, but didn't know they felt her pain. I agree with that, Antoine. I think that's a great, which makes everything even more tragic. Can you imagine finding out that she was inflicting pain on all these poor people? Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. 100%. Lucky Dragon sends in a super chat and says, I don't care about any theories dying. I feel like this was a very clunky and rushed episode. My least favorite of the series. Lucky, I can definitely see that too. I can see that point. I mean, they kind of backed themselves into a corner in that there was so much there and they had to work it out so quickly. So, Joe McCabe sends in a super chat and says, I took the Monica line to refer to Wanda's previous sacrifices, i.e. losing her brother, Vision, and sacrificing normal life to be a hero. Thoughts? I think there's truth to that. Absolutely. And that's exactly what she did. But, she's also, there's a lot of rage in her. Remember, we met her in Age of Ultron, and she was bad, too, even though she'd been experimented on. She lost her family, and there was a lot of rage and anger in Wanda her whole life. So maybe that's what she's destined to be, is a villain, until she can be redeemed Vader style, I guess. Natasha Scott sends in another super chat and says, Wanda sacrificed in Infinity War. She killed her love and then saw him killed. Yes. I mean, my God, she's trying to make a sacrifice, and then even that was taken away from her. Drew C. sends in a super chat and says, I did tell you Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was in a different timeline by the end, so the Darkhold's different. Looks didn't matter. Yep, I agree with you. They made the Darkhold their own thing, and I think that was Kevin Feige's kind of maybe a little bit of an FU. Even though Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had Agent Coulson, still a little bit of a... They didn't like it very much, so they changed everything. Chaz Chow says, we didn't get dick, but we didn't get dick, but at least we got boner. Chaz, I see what you did there. You're not wrong. Peter Vincent Catulio sends in a super chat and says, we fans are like Wanda, creating our own realities and believing our own truths within the realities of our own making. Well, you're certainly not wrong. Hey, John, remember the missing person that Jimmy was sent to Westview to find? What if Ralph is Fox Quicksilver undercover? But why? Like actually, Taylor Upton sent this in. Let me read this again. Taylor Upton says, hey, John, remember the missing person that Jimmy was sent to Westview to find? Oh, yes, we do. What if Ralph is Fox's Quicksilver, but undercover? But how would he know about that? I mean, breaching the multiverse like that is a huge ask. How did that happen? Who arranged it? I mean, I just, I don't know. I think it's a little crazy. McKeel sends in a super chat and says, Wanda rewinded time when she saw Franklin, so I don't think he was ever sent into the Hex. Maybe. I don't know if that's true. Is that true? Rewinded the time? Well, I don't know. Could be. That could be. Why not? Michael T. says, you keep bringing up the Olsen interview. A bigger issue is the Paris and Bettany press. They both specifically said there were cameos to expect. I honestly think they were talking about Double Vision. I really think that was the thing they were leaning into. I saw an interview with him. I don't know if it was on Kimmel or something where they asked him straight up, is that what you were talking about? And he was kind of alluding to the fact that, yeah, that's what he was doing. Jason Lee says, whining fans gotta relax. The finale was fantastic. It was a great logical ending. It's called WandaVision, not Magneto Vision, not Strange Vision, not X-Men Vision. Jason Lee, I agree with you 100%. You're absolutely correct. Kay Munoz says, I am both disappointed and satisfied with the finale. That's exactly how I felt. Disappointed that there was no big cameo nor multiverse X-Men reveal, but satisfied with how they ended Wanda and Vision's love story with despair and some hope. Was still hoping Hawkeye would show up after Jimmy Woo called Cliff. Oh, Cliff. Of course. That's what you guys meant by it's Cliff. It's Cliff Barton out of... I'm an idiot. Also, Jimmy Woo is the new Coulson. Well, Kay Munoz, thank you for clearing up the whole Cliffing. Who's Cliff? I'm like, Cliff? Of course, Cliff Barton. Jeez. How stupid am I? Boy, do I feel dumb. I was thinking Jimmy Cliff, Jimmy Woo, Colin Cliff. That's what you guys meant. Jimmy Woo, Colin Cliff. I was like, what does that mean? So you threw me off. So in my mind, I'm like, Jimmy Cliff, Jimmy Cliff, Jimmy Cliff. Like, the harder they come, Jimmy Cliff. Reggae, you know? But no, now I finally get it. Thank you, Kay Munoz. You've saved me during this chat from looking like a complete douche. So thank you. Pelosia sends in a super chat and says, it looks like the Darkhold has about 50 pages, including a whole chapter on Wanda. Shouldn't take long to master. Hey, man, each sentence. Yeah, actually, Kay Munoz, I really think everything you said is correct. Both disappointed and satisfied. I keep thinking about that. You nailed it. You nailed it. Johnny YouTube sends in a super chat and says, humorous thought. Nosy neighbor Agatha still thinks she lives with and is married to Ralph. Can he run away fast enough? Laugh out loud. Agatha Boner. #party. Boner party. Well, that could be funny, but I think that Agatha is going to be on her merry way as soon as she can be. Xenophrenia sends in a super chat and says, so Marvel used WandaVision as a long tease for a dick joke to shit on their fan base. Do better, Marvel. Yeah, but that's not the only thing they did, even though it is not so great. You know, somebody wrote me a letter about that. But yes, I do find that kind of to be a little crass. Brandon Jones sends in wow, Brandon, a very generous super chat. Brandon says, does it really matter that we're going to see dimensions opened up by other Nexus beings like Kang the Conqueror and Ant-Man and the Wasp 3 that you and others have not considered anything could happen? Mere mortals may try and open up dimensions. Well, Brandon, I think what you're saying, yes, other Nexus beings could open the multiverse. I don't know who is going to do it. I think that we're just assuming it's WandaVision. Or Wanda. I think, look, I love Kang. I'd love to see Kang brought into the MCU, and I know they're doing it, so I'm there for it. Can't wait to see where they're going to take that. I hope it's done well, but we shall see. But yeah, I guess we're going to see dimensions opened up, and I can't wait for it. I'm very, very excited to see where they're going to go with this. And how long is it going to resonate? Are they going to solve this problem after a couple of movies? Or is this the beginning of is this the very beginning? Are we seeing the opening of whatever's leading up to the next conflagration like Infinity War and Endgame? I think it's really interesting. Juan Lopez sends in a super chat and says, also, Jessica Jones and Daredevil being in She-Hulk and Spider-Man 3 are debunked rumors because of the Darkhold reveal. Last super chat for a couple of weeks now. Yeah, but you know what? Whatever's happening in the MCU can happen in the MCU. They can bring back Power Man and Iron Fist and Jessica Jones. They just happen to be there. That doesn't mean their TV shows are canonical. So we could see. I mean, I don't know. And we'll see you in a couple weeks. Come back for our discussions for Falcon and Winter Soldier. Richard Ganther sends in a super chat and says, one of two. First, I have to say I disagree with your assertion that the Evan Peters situation is resolved. I could go on, but let's say instead, thank you, sir. Your pregame and spoiler discussions have been a light in the dark for me. Father was recently diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. Oh, Richard, I'm very sorry to hear that. Very sorry. My mom survived cancer twice, and she's still ticking at 81, but I'm very surprised that I didn't think that would happen. We're given a blessing for that, but I know what that's like. It's always hard. And, you know, I'm sure with a family like yours, and at least with a son like you, your father has somebody to rely on and just all I can advise you in that case is you just got to be there for him as much as you can all the time. Never let him forget you're there pulling for him in the corner because, man, there's some times when I know it gets low. But I'm glad you have taken some solace from all of this, and we'll keep going. Natasha Scott sends in a super chat and says, how good were Liz O, Paul Bettany, and Han? They were all fantastic. Great performances. Echelon 85 sends in a super chat. Greetings from Sweden. What do you think about the theory that the engineer is the Skrull kid from Captain Marvel? Great show. Ooh, you know what? Now that we know that there's a Skrull in the show, I think that could be a good bet. Maybe that's who we were seeing, actually. Aerospace engineer? Could be. Maybe that was it. You know what? I never thought about that. Now I got to go back and watch it. Maybe we're meant to think that that's who they were talking to the whole time. Victor Von Doom sends in a super chat. John, if I may, where can I get that Batman hoodie? Is that I do not know. Is that the Batman Canadian hoodie? I don't know if that's what you're talking about. We'll have to ask him, but I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but I've always wanted that hoodie myself, even though I'm not Canadian. Isaac Hunter III sends in a super chat and says, where do you think the Black Widow movie will fall in this whole timeline? Since the movie is done and ready to go, I'm curious on what they do now. Well, I guess it takes place during the blip, so it's a period of time we really haven't dealt with, which is going to be pretty interesting. I think that's when it takes place. I'm not really sure, not positive, but if it is, I'm there for that. Kenneth sent in a super chat and says, what happens after Wanda faced no consequences? Now she wants more power, and after beating Thanos, knows how to protect her power and her life. Kenneth, good point. I think Wanda at the end of WandaVision has a new lease on life. She knows things she didn't know before. Bad things are going to happen. It's rough. So I think she's probably more dangerous than ever before, but she also knows the kind of love she hadn't felt either. So maybe somebody who's looking for that love again can be even more dangerous. Desiree says, please, John, tell me what happened to the beekeeper. I guess the beekeeper is fine. I don't know. Don't know. Michael Bokar sends in a super chat and says, my theory is Wanda goes on a chase through the multiverse to find her kids. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good bet. Doctor Strange has to follow, clean up her mess, and catch up to her and stop her. That's always a great plot, and I think you're absolutely right about that. Timothy Platt sends in a super chat and says, boy, howdy, are you really... Wait. Timothy Platt says, boy, howdy, you really are willing to defend Hayward to the death, aren't you, John? I don't know about that, but I don't think Hayward's that bad of a guy either. He's just doing his job. He's just doing his job. When the woman says, if you won't leave us, please let us die. Wow, that was hardcore. It was hardcore. That was Just Wing It, by the way, said that. When the woman says, if you won't leave us, please let us die. That was hardcore. How would you like to be that guy or that person or to feel that way? To be that whole town? Not good. Parth Trivedi sends in a super chat and says, love the series. Fairly satisfied with the finale. I laughed, jumped, yelled, cried. Would have loved to see Wanda broken and Agatha training her. Loved the Mr. X. It's been Feige all along. Yes, it has, Parth, and we are there for it. Absolutely. I'm glad you liked it. I mean, look, it took us on a journey. Isn't that all we want? Adam sends in a super chat and says, so I didn't get Mephisto and other people didn't get Reed Richards, but it didn't matter. This show is fantastic. Marvel nailed it again. Bring on more Wanda. Look, whether you loved it or not, I have to say it was 9 shows of great entertainment, and whether the ending was satisfying or not, I certainly loved the journey, and it was a lot of fun to be there. And I agree, bring on more Wanda. And where is that Hot Toys figure? K Munoz sends in a super chat and says, what happened to Agnes? Now that the hex is down and the runes are gone, does Agnes get her powers back, or is she still in Westview? Again, I think she probably hightailed it out of there as soon as she could. But who knows? Joe D sends in a super chat and says, hey, John, so as an audience, we know Vision has been enlightened. How do you think Wanda will react next time she sees him? Could be entertaining. Maybe. I think definitely there's going to be a reunion of the two. And where Wanda's going to be at in her life, I don't know. But, yeah, that's a tough one. I have no idea what's going to happen. I can guarantee you they're going to have a reunion, and I think it will be very entertaining. Jeffrey Mason sends in a super chat and says, what are the chances that we see Blue Marvel in Captain Marvel 2, maybe in Sword headquarters in space? We could, but again, introducing even more characters now that we have Monica Rambeau to be in Captain Marvel 2. But we could see Blue Marvel. I mean, it's hard to say, but could definitely be there. Why not? Anything can happen. I think we're going to have to wait and see. I really don't know, Jeffrey. But that's a good character to introduce. Why not a third Marvel person? So it's hard to say. But, Blue Marvel was bandied about as one of the people we might see during this show. And why not bring him in? Absolutely could happen. One never knows. But we'll see. We shall see. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, kind beings, gentle souls across these 28 known galaxies, I want to thank you for all the generous support you show the John Campea Show. My name is, of course, Robert Meyer Burnett. I am the existential Mr. Rogers. I really love doing these chats. This is my final, I guess these companion videos. This was my final one for WandaVision. I will miss talking about this show. My God, I don't think I've talked about a television show this year, my entire life, except, of course, Star Trek, the original series. But my God, that was over decades. I don't think I've ever talked about one TV show as much as I have on these chats, doing these super chat or doing these companion videos. It's been so much fun. Thank you all for supporting the channel so generously. From the bottom of our hearts, all of us here at the John Campea Show, thank you. What a great audience we have all around the world. And I guess I would say, hey, there's going to be the behind-the-scenes WandaVision show on Friday, and then the next Friday it's Falcon the Winter Soldier, my God. And then in May, if everything being equal, Black Widow doesn't move. Black Widow opens, and then we're into Loki. All the way, and then you've got Shang-Chi leads us into Eternals, leads us into Hawkeye, and leads us into What If, and leads us into Spider-Man, and oh my gosh, it's just a Marvel fest, and we're going to be here for it, for all of it. So thank you very much appreciated, and as always, I like to say, remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear, and all you have to do is listen. And from all of us here at the John Campea Show, whether it's me, whether it's Ray, whether it's Ann, whether it's John himself, fact checker Jonathan's out there in the ether, we thank you very much for watching and supporting us. It means everything in the world. Thanks very much.